right.
Okay, I'd like to call this meeting to order on Thursday, January 20th, 6 o'clock for the Community Senior Center. Get the roll call, please.
Yep. Mr. Sear?
Here.
Mr. Grady?
Here.
Mr. Leddy?
Here.
Ms. Bowman?
Here.
Ms. Gambas? Here. Mr. Uranaga? Thank you. You have a quorum.
Okay, good. Thank you. Mike will probably join us when he can, right?
Yep. Yeah, I said he was coming.
Okay, so tonight before us we have, more or less some discussion points, and we'll start off with audience citizens, and maybe we'll start with online first if anybody's listening.
So Jeff from Downs Construction is online, but he is here as an observer and is not with us.
Anybody else out there? That's it?
No, that's it. That's online.
Okay, then we'll move on to anybody here in person for audience and citizens. Please come forward with your name, address, and tell us your thoughts.
If you're here to just observe, that's okay too.
I was speak. Tim Thurston, 100 Sawmill Drive, Berlin. And I want to thank you guys for all the hard work going on the committee. It's a lot of, you all have families and everything else. It's extra work, so I appreciate it. My son is the high school coach. Just to give you one of the reasons that we really need the community senior center. We got a day off today from school, so all the basketball, wrestling, all the other teams were practicing at the high school. In order for him to practice, he had to call all the kids, call all the parents, and tell them if you want to. The kids have to drive in adverse conditions. Compared to why late tonight or early this morning. We got like 6 kids at practice out of the 25 kids. So it's a severe disadvantage, to prepare the kids like in Newington, Weathersfield, etc. That's really all I wanted to say. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else? Sure.
Dan Thurston, 16 Conlon Way. Again, just thank you to you guys for everything you're doing. You're traveling around the state, do a lot of research, talking to a lot of people about how to run this facility and what would be the best way to get this done. Just to clarify a little bit, like our issue today wasn't about the roads, but rather the kids being out of town. So without a bus, we weren't allowed to hold a practice today. Monday we had issues where we only had 6 people because of adverse conditions, but today we were not allowed to hold a practice because the kids were alternate transportation to the facility out of town. So just wanted to say thank you again for all the work you're doing. We really appreciate it.
Okay.
Excuse me, sir. Can I ask a question of the audience, citizens, Mr. Levy?
Sure. If you want.
It was Dan.
Yes.
That you can. Your dad's next. Is that your dad?
That's my dad,
Okay. I'm sorry, I don't know.
That's okay.
And you're a coach at the high school. What do you coach?
So I coach the men's swim and dive team. James and Bertie, he's our diving coach. Over there. And this is my 13th year with the
13th year in Berlin.
Yep, 15th year coaching the team. I also teach math at high school.
I guess one question I'd like to ask, if I might, and I don't know the answer to this. Maybe you do. Is there a reason when we did the high school renovation, which was very recent, that there was not a pool that was put in? I don't know that. I don't know, but we just did like maybe 40 million for high school renovations. So
Nobody knows.
I
No,
could
there
be
is an
wrong.
answer.
There is an answer. I
there
don't
is an
know.
answer.
It was a renovated new because we were unable to get to the point where we could build a new facility and it was not compliant state compliant. So when it's a renovated new, you can't add anything. You just have to use the square footage for what it would be.
If that's true, it's probably more to do with the reimbursement rate was better for renovated new rather than new school. If
I didn't
you
know.
decide to build a new facility somewhere else, you're only going to get
Jan, what's your address?
63 Grandview.
Thank you.
Jan's of course, I might as well say something. I've been doing this a long time. I was on the committee to start in high school. My son was a team of one at Platt when we fought for a team here in town, a boys team, which we were successful in. I too have been a coach, I'm the diving coach for the girls team and have been for 13 years. We started with the boys team. They go to Meriden, we go to Plainville because there are no diving boards in many places, so the team can't even practice at the same facility. So, you know, we're spending money on top of it, transporting kids to 2 different facilities. And one event is maybe a handful of kids that we are transporting into Plainville to practice with the Plainville team. So, and I sometimes say I shouldn't say this stuff because I've been stalked the last time. I came from an area of the state where we had 4 full pools that were used from 5 a.m. until 10 p.m. They were able to at least keep, maybe not make money, but be self-sustaining. And I think if you look at a pool facility, it can be used for a master's program starting at 5 a.m. You can do aerobics for anybody, for seniors. You can do swim lessons for little kids. You can do so much in a facility if you have the right people running that facility. And it's not just a pool. I remember going to Kensington Grammar School to sign my kids up for stuff to do. And then we opened the community center under the library with the understanding that 10 years down the road, it would have to be moved before we would lose the grant money, which apparently we did lose because we weren't out of there within 10 years. So I'm frustrated. My kids are not going to benefit. My grandkids probably are not because they're not, my kids aren't in town, but I just think that the kids need something to do and the seniors need something to do. My mom was very active in the senior center. So anyway.
Great, thank you.
I have one question. Is it Ann?
Jan.
Jan, I'm sorry, Jan.
That's okay.
I just have one question.
You can ask me lots of questions.
No, just one. You know, I remember jumping off the boards of Percival Pool as a kid.
Rainier.
Now, so, yeah, can those be used during the summer or that's not like,
Well, it's open very long.
no, but are those dive boards like high enough or appropriate enough and the pool's deep enough for you to dive off at
The
Percival?
1 meter board is appropriate. They took down the 3 meter because of liability. Which most
So that
facilities,
was,
that's the high.
I
A lot of
remember when I was
places are
kid, they
taking them
jumped
out.
off them.
Because of liability, I think, 1 meter boards are sufficient for high school use.
Thank you, I didn't
Great.
know. Okay, sure.
Okay, well, if there's anything else, we'll move on and we'll approve the minutes from December 2nd. I was not here, I apologize for that. Couldn't get away from what I had. Get a motion to,
I'll make a motion to accept the minutes of December 2nd.
Second.
so move, okay.
Is there any discussion?
You can have a discussion about that, sure.
Okay. I just want to, I was going through the minutes and I asked in our last meeting, if we were gonna have, if we could have, with the money we have left over from our grant, if we could get a consultant that would be fully invested in our project to try to look for funds and grants and things like that. And I don't see that in the minutes, but I did ask that question. I wondered.
So Alina's not here, so what you can do is make a motion to accept the minutes with Barbara's input of adding that in, and
I just asked.
then it'll be reflected in this month's minutes.
About the minutes, are they available to the public?
Yes, they're all online. Yep, they usually go on within 5, I think it's within 5 or 7 business days after the meeting.
There's something close here, Barbara, it's mentioned, there's one sentence here about funding grants is essential. like your comment about certain.
Yeah,
We should do it.
consultant. Yes, that's
I mean,
what I
that's one of our topics of discussion tonight, but, yes, I'll take a motion.
did see that, but it wasn't exactly
Wasn't
what
good
I was
complete
asking
what you-
for. Yeah.
That's for a revised motion, as amended to include Barbara's comments about looking for a consultant.
I'll make that motion.
Second. Second.
Everyone was here except Brendan, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. All in favor?
Aye.
I abstain. No noes. Motion passes. That's good. Sometimes I forget to read these things, so I'm glad you brought that up, Barbara. So we did continue our trek out there, visiting some sites. I did not go to Wyndham. Some things about that place, so Rocky Hill I did go to in Meriden, but I guess we'll start with anybody here that in the community that went to Wyndham and share some of their thoughts.
You want to?
You can start, go ahead.
Okay,
Go ahead.
so in one of these packets, it says Wyndham and Community Center.
Yep.
Those are just my notes that I typed up in the committee. And then the third page is their aquatic membership fees as of right now, and that's online, and I just attached that for your benefit. So Wyndham is still in construction. I checked today just to see if they were close to opening up, which they expect in early February. I don't see anything indicating that's going to happen then. They encountered delays in, construction materials due to COVID issues, supply issues. Same architect that we have for our current plans. Nutmeg is the general contractor. They were all working pretty hard while we were there that day. They passed a referendum due to community involvement from seniors and wrestling programs, believe it or not. They have, you'll see a second floor that is really dedicated to the wrestling programs in town. And those two groups really pushed very hard for their community center. It did pass, but it was very narrow win. The Y he mentioned wasn't considered because back in the 90s, I guess there were some issues with the Y, and they left at that point due to lack of funding. I don't have any details on that. The cost was 18.5 to 20 million, and we should confirm once it's done. 33,000 square feet. The assistant director that we met with thought they received somewhere between 4 to 6 million from state, and then about 15 million was funded by the taxpayers. That was the amount that was approved in referendum. It's all one floor, except there is a second floor off the gym that is the so-called wrestling room with the laundry area upstairs as washer and dryer. Front and back entrances to the senior section, and then on the right-hand side, there's front and back entrances to the recreational center. It's actually nicely laid out. As you come into the senior section, I thought the lobby was pretty nice. There were a couple of rooms on your left. I'm going from the front. On your left, nice kind of library area, then a separate meeting room. On the right-hand side was a reception desk that had a sliding door, separating it from offices in the back for the senior staff. There's a small hallway around the corner that led you to the dining multi-purpose room as a small stage. It's actually a very nice area for Wyndham to have it because the Shabu outdoor concert area is right there. And so their senior dining room is all glass on one wall, looking out to this concert area. And there's a deck outside or patio outside the glass. But so anybody in the dining area, seniors, or maybe the community in the afternoon, all you gotta do is walk outside, sit on the deck, and you can listen to the concert. So, they gave it some thought as to how they laid out this. In the back was a kitchen, and I think one of the benefits of their kitchen, fully staffed kitchen, was that they had a separate delivery entrance in the back. Separate door for all deliveries, and right at that area was a huge pantry and walk-in freezer. So anybody delivering foods or whatever would walk in, use the walk-in freezer, stack the pantry, and then you go into the kitchen, and then is the huge dining room or multi-function room there. In the lobby area, there was a small canteen to the right. I'm not really sure how that's gonna be used in the future. I guess we'll see when we come up. They talked about maybe having some vending machines or maybe a small refrigerator or something like that. It's a small gathering area. And then to the left, you go down a hallway into the recreational side. And the recreational side, so you really have two entrances, senior entrance, dining room, hallway connecting both, two entrances, recreational office. On the left-hand side was a very big check-in area, receptionist area, and then behind that, offices. Their offices were small, and that, from what I remember, they were cut back due to funding, but they really don't have any room for storage and expansion if they need it. Let's see. So now you go down the hallway, they have a couple of locker rooms and, you know, entrances to the pool. Girls' men's bathroom, there's two family bathroom and showers, a couple of handicap showers in each with 3 regular showers in each men's and women's room. The thing about Wyndham throughout the whole facility, lobby was nice, but the hallway is extremely narrow. And the pool, you come out of the locker rooms, and I'd be worried if I had a small kid. Because I know my kids, when they were small, they'd be jumping in the pool because there was really, maybe it's 3 feet, maybe that's the legal size, I don't know, but it's very small. Walk out the door of the locker room and you're right there at the pool. And he pointed out, the assistant director, they didn't put the right doors in. You know, it was a design flaw or whatever by a contractor, and no locks. So kids could come in and just go right, and I'm telling you, you go right out. They also had a shower on the decking of the pool. Nice thought, but it's on the left side again as you come in, and it's extremely narrow and congested there. If you're gonna do a shower, do it on the opposite end of any doors. That's what I saw anyway. Let's see. Pool, it's not a competitive pool. It's a 4 feet in the shallow end, 5 feet in the deeper end, but they did have something unique. They called it a child standing deck. They can put into the pool. So if you have smaller children, you can actually put this thing in the pool and the kids could stand in it, you know, that might be only a couple feet tall and stand in the 4 foot area. They keep it fairly warm, 84 to 86 degrees. There's a wheelchair and a walker ramp into the pool. EV lighting used, you know, for the chemicals, gave the pool memberships. On the left side was their gym. It is a smaller gym than we've seen in other places. He mentioned that they have to use their old bleachers, but it's difficult to fit them in without encroaching on the floor. And again, they reduce the space because of funding. And even the gym, you know, it's pretty narrow from the wall to the floor itself. There's not a lot of room for bleachers or other things to happen. Stairs leading up to the second floor, used for wrestling and to a lesser extent other programs. That was pretty unique. And Mike can tell you more about the wrestling stuff they had. It was all on the wall. I mean, wrestling, I could see why they might have pushed for this thing. Elevator to be installed in the back, laundry room, like I said, reductions due in space. So my impression, hallways and pool deck very narrow, gym smaller and storage, extremely limited throughout the facility. Entrance area, the lobbies area, lower ceilings, and you know, it looked okay with lower ceilings. Didn't take away from it at all. This might be a good one to follow and see the final project cost, blah, blah, blah. And I would just reconfirm all the costs. It was a little gray in that area, but that's pretty much what we told. So, Mike?
Yeah, I don't, as far as the notes are concerned, what we saw, this is spot on, so I'm not gonna really add too much to this. I think one of the things that I noticed, that Donna may be checking on this, their demographics as far as the size of the town and who they serve is pretty much close to us, like
That's
as
right,
far
yeah.
as the amount of people.
Yep.
With that said, I think that their center is probably a little smaller than we want to do. In terms of square footage, the pool is not a competition pool, it's not competition size. So we would definitely have to, change up anything we're looking at their plan compared to what we want to do. Otherwise, a lot of what they focused on, the impression I got was that the wrestling program really was one of the ones, because they're the ones that pushed a lot for this. That they did a really nice job of the gym upstairs from where the main gym is. They have a wrestling gym upstairs. It's all about wrestling. And they have a laundry room, they had all kinds of stuff. And for me, it kind of struck a chord with me because, we had a similar group on board with us. Maybe a lot. You can see where I'm going with that, as far as like getting back to help with that is concerned. We're really rallied to help us with that. That I think would be very helpful on our end when it comes to to going to referendum. But I think that it will be very interesting to see how it goes, just because learning about the roadblocks they hit, putting things together, moving along in the process, building the actual facility and then finishing it up and seeing how things go opening wise. I think it's something for us to definitely make sure that we take notes on that portion and see how things go before reopening. Just because I think they were a little skeptical on it because of some of the deadlines that they were trying to reach. So I think maybe March is closer for them, or at least look more reasonable for them to open. So it's just something for me that I know that anyways, I'd like to continue to follow what they're doing and how things work out that way. But I thought it was a very well done and well thought out building for them, for their needs. The one thing I don't know if you liked it or not, Donna, but it seemed to me that there was very much a clear delineation. This is the senior part of the center, and this is the recreation part of the center. It was like a clear divide.
Yeah.
And I'm not sure that that's exactly what we want. Not to say that, we have to blend everything together, but to me, the community part of that for me got a little lost. Where I can see that you could have two separate entrances depending on what's going on, what time of day, and I understand that. Again, that's just my thoughts there. And then lastly, I thought they did a really nice job of using the area where they built the building, because of the way that the doors open up into the Shipley Center. Hear the concert if you're having lunch at the senior center. It's something for us to take a look at, whatever site we determine that best for our center. How do we take advantage of what's around us? If it's going to be in the spot where we thought is best across from the high school, do we have good access to walking trails to downtown? Do we have good different ways of entering and exiting? Are there other things that we can take advantage of in that specific site plan? So that's just the question.
Mike, how big was their pool, do you know? When you say it wasn't a competition?
It was not competition size. I can't remember the exact dimensions.
I don't remember the length. We could look it up. It is online. And
Yeah.
all these sites, you can go online, you can see YouTube, they'll take you on a tour and everything of what they have right now. But the depth was 4 feet and then 5 feet deep.
But I mean, as far as the length of it.
It wasn't.
Yeah, you could do laps in it, but
Yeah, but what was
it's a
this
smaller pool.
Swims in 25
Short.
25 yards instead of 25 meters. Perhaps that.
Not as short as that, but it just was plus the depth.
Not as big as the wide pool as far as length, just to give you an idea.
They gave this, is this for the same place?
That was, yeah, and you'll see a lot of to be determined. Everything hasn't vetted out yet, but those are the fees that right now, and I did check to make sure that it's still the same that's up on their website, and it is as of today.
Well, for the town, was this a new facility? Did they have separate facilities, and this is a new concept in there for them?
They did, yeah. I think their community center was fairly small, maybe part of the town hall or something. But they had a separate senior center. But this is brand new facility. So, Tina was there also. I know she's not here tonight, but she was there also for the senior side, so.
Tina, if you're listening, do you have any?
She's not here.
She's not here?
No,
Okay,
she doesn't.
sorry.
That's okay.
All right. That's good, thanks. I do remember we've been talking that it wasn't finished and we were able to get you to see it as they were.
It was kind of interesting to see it in construction. We were walking all around it and it was pretty good to bring us on a good tour, so.
All right, good thoughts to keep in mind. Well, we'll move on to some thoughts and notes on Rocky Hill. I was there, but I'll let you go because yours is typed out.
Okay, I'll go through my notes. I know Debbie would incorporate, I saw in the package, Debbie had a couple of.
Debbie and I both submitted notes, yeah.
Okay. So it was complete, Rocky Hill, attached to the town hall, and they had their Parks and Rec department, part of the town hall previously, so there was already a gym there, which was a little bit of renovations, but actually a new addition is the majority of the center. So the new addition was completed August 21. They opened in 10/3. What we're seeing from a lot of these places is they give the staff about a month's time before they open it to the public so that the staff can move in and really figure out, you know, this is how we're going to run it, you know, for the programs and things like that, and get ready for the staff. There is some repair areas in the renovated area. They had some water, and I'm not sure if it's bathrooms or each air conditioning or whatever, but, you know, some repairs, as you might think have to be done. The referendum passed in 18. It was a very close vote. Cost was somewhere around 10.5 million for 9650 square foot addition. Now, the director told us the total square feet is 16,005. So I'm assuming the gym and the older part that was renovated was the balance. But it is all on one level, you know, which is nice. They do not have a pool because their high school has a pool, and they mentioned that they operate a lot Tri-Town, Weathersfield, Newington, and Rocky Hill, who have pools at the high school. I believe Weathersfield does, but anyway, they do share things and share aquatic programs. Very welcoming lobby. I actually, you walk into Rocky Hill, I was very pleased to see it. I thought it was beautiful, a lot of light. You walk in, straight ahead is a cafe. It was manned by senior volunteers, you know, coffee, some foods. On the left-hand side is a nice library area, but it's kind of a sitting lobby, allowing people to sit around, chat. Maybe get set up before they go into some other programs or whatever. He mentioned the theme is nautical because of the town's access to the Connecticut River. To the right, straight ahead in the lobby, there's a thrift store area, which they're not using currently, more for storage, but if at some point, I guess there was, you know, the seniors wanted to have an area where they could sell things or run a thrift store. Right side of the lobby is the reception area. Now, this is where Parks and Rec and senior services work very well together, it appears. Their offices are all together, so there's one reception area, and then behind are their offices. Although they may have separate programs and things, the entire center is used by all ages at different points during the day and evenings. Jan, you mentioned, you know, how things can be used by different groups. Okay, so that's that. They would have liked to have some additional space in the offices. Behind the coffee and area, that cafe is a full kitchen, opening up to a multi-purpose room that opens up into 3 separate rooms, used for senior lunches, the community, and it fits 250 people. The kitchen, which is a fully staffed kitchen, but they are only using it to reheat. They use a private company to come in, have the lunches for the seniors. Again, this is with COVID, you know, after COVID was going to allow them to do. But their plan is to only use a private business to come in and reheat things. But this kitchen had everything, like, if that's their plan long-term, it's kind of a waste. There's audio and streaming in the third portion of the multi-purpose room. Coming out of there, there's bathrooms, and there's a game room, activity room, arts and craft room, exercise and dance studio with mirrors. And very interesting, a key thing is with remote access for people that are at home but want to take advantage of the class. So if you're having a yoga class, people can dial in, there's a huge TV, they can see the program on their TV, they can see you in the classroom, and you can participate in the class. So I thought that was a great idea for people that are stuck at home. Fitness room off, well, that is the fitness room, but then there's the exercise room. It's a small area. They probably would have done something a little bit larger for the equipment that they have. But the thought is, you know, a smaller fitness room, not like something that we saw at the Y. You know, it's to add, complement other things that you're running, but not to replace maybe private companies and things like that. There's a gym with a stage. Again, that was there originally. The old gyms all had stages. They wouldn't put a stage in now because it's kind of waste of space. Left side, they have a very big childcare pre-K program, which goes right outside to a playground. And there is a divider where they can split it in twos if they have different age groups or something else. And it's an automatic, it's manual, not automatic. From a operational standpoint, one thing that I noted was their custodial staff, the facilities, they actually changed their work week. So some people work Monday through Friday, some people work Tuesday through Saturday to avoid having to pay overtime on Saturdays because community centers would be open on Saturday. So they were able to do that. Again, no pool. Lessons learned, we went into the bathrooms, Tina and myself, and the senior bathroom, and even the senior service director, she goes, yeah, I don't know why they made it this small, but they made it small. Supposedly it could fit a wheelchair. We couldn't figure out how you could get a wheelchair through it. Doors were extremely heavy and didn't have automatic openers. So, you know, just something for us to keep in mind. They would recommend smaller tables for the game room and activity rooms. If you look on YouTube, they have a very good viewing of the whole center, and you'll see these huge tables. And it's just wasted because you couldn't even play cards at the big tables. You know, you need a nice square table to play cards. But, and furniture that they originally bought tend to scratch the floors over in the multi-purpose room, so they had to replace the legs on the floors. Arts and craft room has 2 sinks. They would recommend sinks in every room, which they don't have. And think about sound with high ceilings. That arts and craft room in the back have high ceilings. They said it's very hard to hear. They would have liked more storage in their fitness and exercise rooms. They did purchase some racks that they can store things, but they would really like to see more storage than what they have. They exposed the ceilings in those rooms because those rooms, you know, they said you really don't have to cover the ceilings. People are working out, they dance or whatever, they don't really care about it. So those, you know, expose the ceilings where you can, so save some money. There's a security system that they say the police monitor. The library pays for licenses for movies that are shown in the multi-purpose rooms. And in the bathrooms, and make sure you install high toilets and again, make it moving. We've seen that issue. For some reason, these bathrooms that they're installing, even in the senior sides or whatever, are the lower toilets. And every place ends up having to redo the toilets within a year to put high toilets in. I don't know why high toilets weren't put in.
If it's a brand new building, Brendan, you might know too, ADA is you have to put in the high toilets, you have to put in ADA accessible toilets. But if you renovate to new, I don't, because the building was built at a time before that, it's not mandatory.
Yeah.
But if we were building a
Rocky
whole
Hill, at
new
least the
building,
new-
we would have
Whether they
to,
call this a renovation, but the new portion had the low toilets.
right, but it's
And-
considered a renovation.
Yeah, so maybe that's how they covered some
That's
of
how
those
you get up
things.
to code, yeah.
Yeah, so we gotta make sure we put high toilets in, whether it's a renovation or not, so. All right. That's what I have.
Okay, my thoughts on Rocky Hill. No, it wasn't an addition to existing facilities, so they had an older gym, right?
The
They had
gym
a
was old, right?
Really old weird
Yeah.
stage that really, I don't even know if they use it. That was
They
kind of-
don't, yeah, they said it's a waste. Yeah.
And that was all on one level, so there was,
Right,
there was
right.
no,
One level.
no really using for elevator or anything like that. It seemed like it was laid out nice. But one of the things you mentioned was the furniture. That seemed to be a problem everywhere we went. FF&E,
Mhm.
furniture, fixtures, equipment. Seems like some of them, can't remember which place, they didn't have it in their budget, and then you gotta figure it out. Get it later, or they buy stuff ahead of time, when they said they bought was scratching the floor.
And what they bought scratched the floors once they put it in, so you gotta make sure you match them up, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, Craig Bowman, the director, is a local Berlin kid, right? So.
Yeah.
It was
Lives
just
in
to
Berlin.
have a little connection there, give us a nice tour. It's a little bit smaller place, it doesn't have a pool, but they have a pool in one of the schools, right? It's high school, the middle school. It's high school, right?
I think it's high school, no. I'm sure that's what it said.
Yeah, I mean, seeing some newer facility like that, it was nice. I think it's not exactly what we're looking for, but it was good to see it. I don't think they had anything different, really. They did have a couple bathrooms that were gonna be renovated.
Yeah, towards the renovation
Yeah.
area, they were leaking and coming into the walls.
That was an
kind of a
underground
mess.
drainage issue or something. They finally got to bite the bullet and just fix that. But I didn't notice anything about the toilets like that.
Yeah, I think, I know
Discussing
Tina
that.
and I went in and we
That's a
were
good
like
point.
shocked, like how, and the senior service director was, she goes, I know, I don't know why.
Yeah, I really like that the offices were together. Right as you walk in, so like you need direction of where to go, they were right there, and that's also something that would be great if they have people out sick or something and helps with coverage to be able to have it all at one desk, which was nice. The weight room, the exercise room was way too small. I mean, it was to one point where if the door was open and there were two people on the rowing machines behind the door, they couldn't be next to each other because they'd be hitting elbows. It was very crowded. Also, their exercise room is only open to seniors during the day. It's not open in the evenings for the general public, which, I mean, I'm in the office. I see how many people are coming to our exercise room day and night. So that's something that I would want to see open all the time.
Yeah, that was a weird size room.
It was very
Yeah, it
narrow.
was small, and, yeah.
Okay.
Debbie has
Debbie have.
some notes, I think that covers it, right? Shannon?
Yeah, I mean, we were both, the flooring in the big multi-purpose room all scratched up from the chairs, just drove, I mean, we talked about that later in the day when we were back in our office, it drove us nuts. So that's something we would really want to make sure we looked into. She liked the front entrance, we talked about that, and the exercise room. She liked that the TVs, as you walk, there were TVs on the walls that showed what the activities were going on and in what room, so I thought that was a nice attribute. That's it.
For me, I look at things like maintenance issues, concrete walls versus
Yep.
sheetrock, especially public areas, seeing the concrete into walls pulled up to the traffic and then used rather than sheetrock. I mean, this is good for offices where you're not going to really get into that many times, but you see some of these places that have high ceilings and they have a stress crack. How am I going to get up there and do that?
I've actually, since you've made the motion of one of the first ones about the high ceilings, everywhere we go now, I'm looking at the ceiling to see if
That's
they're
why I
high.
mentioned the lobby of Rocky Hill, it's lower ceilings, I mean, it's not 8
Yeah.
feet, 9 feet or, and it looks fine. Window, same thing,
Yeah.
lower ceilings, it looks fine, you don't need the high
I
ceiling,
hate
to your
wasting
point.
space.
So you've educated.
And that's
me.
how Debbie is too. We've actually, Debbie and I both thought the Rocky Hill lobby, as nice as that little fireplace area was, we were like, we could cut that in half and put that in the meeting room. So that's what we're thinking, which would get more use than people sitting and, chatting it
It's
up.
good to get feedback from the people that are using the rooms
Right,
Yeah,
versus
yeah.
what we have and what we're thinking.
yeah.
Get some good ideas that way. So the next place we visited was, a little different than town site, but it was the Meriden YMCA. I did it on that one, but I didn't get my notes transcribed for these years now.
These are mine, yeah.
Okay, we can start there.
The building the main Meriden Y building, 30,000 square feet, it's about 22 years old. It's called the Program and Fitness Center, and they do have some other locations throughout Meriden, like for childcare, they have CrossFit, which is a part of the Y, and some other things. It's an older facility, so, it wouldn't necessarily be a Y that they might build here in Berlin, obviously, and we are looking at going to Putnam next Friday. I know that's on the agenda, which is the newest Y in the state. You come into the lobby, smaller lobby, you look into the pool, so it's visual, you can see the pool, which, they purposely do and like. There is a community room where we met that they can be used by anyone, not just Y members. The reception desk and offices in the backside. John Benigni, who's the executive director, mentioned, his initial thoughts just about a Berlin Y, knowing what he knows about Berlin. That's why he asked us to come there, because he said, Berlin, about 30,000 square foot is the kind of facility he would look for. And it would include a gym and pool. He said he would do a bigger lobby area than what Meriden has. Again, this is an older facility. He mentioned no one's turned away if they can't afford the Y except silver sneakers. And he just threw out, he believes 50% of our seniors in Berlin have silver sneakers. Now, I don't know if that's part of the study or whatever, but that's what he said. Cinder block walls, which make it difficult to expand if they wanted to, but again, it's downtown, it's, they probably can't expand all that much. Pools, well-maintained. Tim had asked about maintenance, and he said it might be down for 5 days. That's not consecutive days, but 5 days throughout the year for certain maintenance and good maintenance programs. Small meeting area on the left of the lobby near the elevator with a giving tree for donations. Make it visual for those people that have donated or companies that have donated for the facility. And he said that small area is used quite a bit. People can look into the pool and see. It was pretty small. Across the hallway is a child watch area, which is a fairly large room. And John mentioned that he would, probably cut it in half.
Probably as big as this one.
It was huge.
It was big, yeah. Maybe not as wide, but yeah, probably lengthwise. And but that's solely for people to drop off kids so the parents can use the facility or whatever. Their child care center is offsite. The gym is at the end of the lobby hallway. It's a good sized gym, various lines on the floors for various sports, including pickleball and all that. Above the gym on the second floor is a walking running track going around. Just mentioned 16 laps equal a mile. The track oversees the gym, but the way the track was built, the floor of the track hovers over the gym. So what that does is on the gym, it impedes the use of the sides of the gym because the flooring of the track is above. It's not as tall as, in other words, a 2-story gym like you would normally have. Good storage off the back of the gym. In fact, they turned the beginning area that was storage into a golf simulator room, and that's where actually our golf pro, Mark, actually runs golf lessons in the wintertime. They hire him, and that's what he does. And then headed back outside the gym, going down the hallway, 2 racquetball courts, which get used. And as John mentioned, though, he wouldn't do that again, but, because it's limited to 4 people to play, but it uses up 2 sportatory space, and so, when you think of spacing, it's a lot of room to give 4 people playing at one time. Not always used, but it is used for them. Wouldn't recommend that for a new facility. Across the hall, the locker and bathrooms. I noticed there was a combination on the doors for use. You mentioned 21 and over, and they lead into the pool. Jen, Debbie, and I walked through the women's room, obviously not the men's. And you know what was interesting? They had a wall dryer for bathing suits. I never saw that. Like, that was pretty neat.
Yeah, Debbie said that's common, so I had never seen
I
it
had never
either.
seen
Debbie's like, yeah, they all have that.
There is one handicap shower, and again, it's an older facility, so it's kind of different than what we may have seen elsewhere. I would expect Putnam to be different, you know, it's the shower, kind of an open area for the handicapped person to change in. Older, lots of lockers. Go a little, there's another room, there's more lockers and everything like that. You go out to the pool, the aquatic director's office is not in the pool area, and they mentioned because they were concerned about electrical and computers, you know, from the pools. We haven't seen that at newer facilities. We see the aquatic director's office being right within the pool area. So it might be because it's an open facility, I don't know. Pool's not a competitive pool, deep end's at 7 foot. It is maintained warmer, and they do rent it out for other things. And as you mentioned, Dan, men's team practices there. But diving can't be used, and I think for competitions, correct me if I'm wrong, you go to Meriden High School? Because that has the competitive stuff, yeah.
The girls' team, correct.
Upstairs, there was a team game room, which was pretty interesting and set up solely for teens. I mean, it was pretty cool the way they have it set up with games. There was aerobics, spinning, pilots that they offer in rooms on the side. There's a large fitness room, an extremely large fitness equipment room with the fitness manager's office right outside it. We did, after the tour, have a post-tour discussion. Some questions were raised, but just some points that he brought out. So we do know that we run senior lunches in Berlin at the senior center. Although they don't run lunch programs or anything like that, in Meriden, he mentioned the New Britain Y runs a full kitchen, and they serve 100 meals daily for child. Given it's a 30,000 square foot Berlin square foot facility, you know, we may have additional needs depending on what's recommended, such as a kitchen, dining area, and competitive and therapy pool. Funding, which is one thing that I learned, it's all local. So if the Y is going to build a facility here in Berlin, they would look to local funding to fund it. Fundraising, philanthropy, individuals, companies, and they do hire they would hire a fundraising company to help steer the individuals who, you know, the public, to where to go and, you know, how much to expect from residents, companies, blah, blah, blah. National provides some planning in the beginning, but they don't provide any funding. Membership driven. And the first thing that would be done would be a feasibility study for Berlin, probably to determine what could be done here in the town. He did mention this was his term. What scares him is building a Y in Berlin is our population size. And I asked, I said, you mean because it's 20,000 people right now? And he said, yeah. But he did say that. And, you know, so it's, again, they'll reconfirm and we'll have questions February 3rd, but it's just something that he mentioned. He did confirm the Ys make their money in childcare, which includes summer programs, camps, to offset other programs, and their pools do not make money. They already run the after-school programs in Berlin, and as I asked, I said, well, if you're making money on childcare and after-school programs, camp that you're already running in Berlin, then those monies are already supporting the programs in Meriden and Britain. So if you build a Berlin Y, those so-called profits, if there are from Berlin, wouldn't help fund the Berlin Y. So again, just something to understand. Professional fundraiser, which would make sense. He did mention that the combined New Britain, Meriden, and Berlin Y is 16 million in revenue now and operates in the black even during COVID. I had learned there might be a Y in New Jersey that either funded the building or works with the town. The town and the Y run this facility. And I don't know where it is. Someone just mentioned, he said he was aware of it and he would find out more information for us. Whatever I consider that. They don't use, Meriden continues to have a Meriden Parks and Rec department as well as a separate senior center. And he mentioned that, you know, two types of seniors, one that likes the senior center programs and one that like to come to the Y. They don't run their vans, senior vans, to the Y to use the pool. And he does try and coordinate with Parks and Rec. They gave us, and it's attached, is the current fees, membership fees, and the hours of the Meriden Y facility. So those are what the notes.
We'll start making a chart of fees for the different places.
Yeah.
Comparison.
Yeah.
My thoughts on Meriden, you know, like you said, it was an older building, it's downtown. So it was good that you got to meet John, the new.
Yes.
The Y is local and involved here in Berlin, so it's good for him to reach out to us. But, you know, it's a Y, you know, their pool is front and center in the front of the building for everybody to see. That's, he liked that, yes. But there wasn't really any meeting rooms there, other than smaller in front, right? There was nothing that you
Right.
could open up and have a bigger room. The men's room showers, I mean, there was a separate area for young persons and then for the men, but I don't think there were separate shower areas. I think they had to change and go the same area.
Right. Same with the women,
Yeah.
except for the handicap.
Yeah,
one.
because
Yeah.
it was older and
Yeah.
they really haven't refurbished it or redesigned or anything like that. So that stood out to me a little bit. But that was, you know, like you said, it was older and, but it was pretty good shape for being the age that it's, right?
Yeah, you can say it's well maintained.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're, you know, whatever they do for cleaning and stuff. Yeah.
And, you know, Tim, you can have, jump in too, but you did have a good comment asking about the pool. How long was it down? I was kind of surprised, you know, you said about 5 days a year. You go to some of these places, they could be down for a long time, right?
Weeks.
Yeah.
Weeks.
We went.
I thought the place was run really well. I thought they gave a good presentation. These guys are sharp. They know what they're doing. I mean, they took us through and explained to us everything that worked and everything that didn't work. And that, I really thought that was pretty good. The one thing was his concern, I think, with Berlin was trying to build the size of the facility we were looking at, the 70,000 square feet. Because he said that they did a study here at 35,000 square feet would be what they were looking at, maximum for a building. And that would be a break-even point. But I think he was more concerned with what we were looking at. As far as, you know, like I said, what we had, the plans that we had, as far as making that even work.
Yeah, I know he would, you know, again, he'll be here February 3rd, we can reconfirm, but he would look, he said best case for Berlin would be break even for a facility that they would build.
Yeah.
That would be best case. And, but I think that, yeah, I'll let him speak for that, but
Yeah,
I
we
think
can
when
hold off on
he was
that.
concerned about.
In
Building a
agreement
Y.
with what Tim was saying, when we even asked about adding a diving well, because their pool doesn't have a diving well, and that's something we would obviously want. It, you know, he was kind of, you could tell he was hesitant about it because that adds more square footage,
He
which
did
adds
say,
more
he
of a
said
construction.
more
and that-
costs, you know,
Yeah,
for all,
so
like if we want. a
Even just
kitchen,
adding that, so
Yeah,
that kind of was a little, like,
Yeah.
oh, that caught my attention. Racquetball courts, I get it. My dad played racquetball when he was younger. I just think it's a dying sport. And to me, because it's the two levels, it was just so much wasted space that I was thinking I was looking at this building and I was looking at that one meeting room and I'm thinking of the building that I work in now where our meeting rooms are like right now. I mean, not tonight because of the storm, because of the schools being canceled, but every room is booked every Thursday night. So not having the availability of the meeting rooms for everybody or the, or even the seniors to come in and be able to do stuff. There was also no mention of collaboration with the senior center moving, like as in if he came to Berlin and he would do it, there was no volunteering information about collaboration with the Parks and Rec Department or the senior center. So that kind of caught my attention too. That's it.
Anything else on the why? Meredith? We'll move on to future site visits. I know Donnie mentioned Putnam for what's next week?
20th.
28th.
It would be 9 AM. We haven't gotten back to her because, we haven't said what date. They offered us 2 dates, but right now it's the 28th, 9 AM. That's the date that she has. She would like to have a facilities person join us, but she's not sure he'll be able to, but she will certainly give a good tour of it. They'll give you an idea of the newest Y in the state. So I think it's will be worthwhile.
Yeah, it would be, especially saw Meriden. Since 2020, I don't know when that was built, but you can see if they have that. Just put on different programming ideas.
Right.
What their space
The
look like
square
now.
footage and all that. Yeah, we'll see. So I think if we could tonight, I don't decide who's going, just because I know her that. I'd like to email her and confirm with everybody.
Well, I responded that I wanted.
Yeah,
to
I-
go.
So you're in.
But if someone else wants to go, I said I'd go. So I'm ready.
And it's kind of your idea to find one of the newer built Ys, so I think you should go.
What's the date?
Next Friday.
28.
I could probably
It's
do
next
that.
Friday.
I'm in.
I've gone to every facility. I'd be willing to beg off Putnam. At the same time, I'm willing to go as well. But
And staff, I'm not
Okay.
sure about, because it's a big chunk of the workday, so I have to check and see if team is back for me.
February 28th. Yeah, I could do that.
January 20th.
yeah, it's next Friday.
I thought you said February.
Okay, so Dave, Tim, and Mike,
Sure. I'll go.
9 AM, guys, be there.
Or
I'll
something.
copy you on the
We'll make it like
email.
11-ish.
Her name is Amanda Kelly. She's the executive director there. And then if there's any issues, let us know so someone else can fill in. But I'll send out the email tomorrow, copy this. And Debbie's gonna,
We're not sure which staff is going yet. It's still being. worked
okay,
out.
so I'll just copy.
Yeah, just put all three of us on.
Okay,
It's-
yep.
It's a hike, so it's a huge chunk of the workday, and with Tina coming back
Okay.
into the office next week, I'm not sure.
Yeah.
And we're still in this section here, future visit. Any thoughts of seeing any other local ones like Southington? Something like that.
I think Southington would be a good idea.
Tim, you had mentioned Plainville too, and Jan, we practiced at Plainville, right?
Practice at the high school, though, not at, the
Oh.
high school has a pool and there's a Y also. at the pool.
I actually drove by and just poked my head in to see what the places were like.
In Plainville?
Yeah, Plainville, it's a nice facility, but they got hit pretty hard with COVID. They had their little coffee shop and Subway in there and everything. And all that got shut down. So it's a really nice facility. though.
From what I heard from the kids.
Yeah.
A lot of people used it.
Yeah, and I
Yeah,
know
there's a
Southington-
lot
And Plainville has a lot of Berlin residents using
Yeah,
it.
it's close. I mean, it's, like I said, it's a really nice facility.
and I know Southington's a beehive.
I walked in the door and there's no
Something
ice
why?
in front of the fireplace with a fire going. into the door. Big, nice open lobby.
They did a renovation?
Of the pool.
It's
Of the pool.
Yeah.
It's still trying, but
The pool is
So
tiny or the
the-
Y
the-
sign?
the pool. But
Yeah,
they put
just
enough
throwing this out, like,
and stuff.
I know we got a lot to do and the time left, and people want to go to another place, another Y, that's fine. You're gonna see the newest Y.
Yep.
So hopefully we'll
Yeah,
encompass,
get
but
some
Tim,
thoughts
you
from
might know when you go.
Yeah.
And then maybe we add on.
Well, this,
If you
yeah,
think
if
there's
we're doing
more to
Putnam
say.
next Friday, I will hold off on any wise until after we do Putnam.
Yeah,
That's
see,
the point, we
see,
could always worry
see what
about
you
it.
think and
I
then,
agree with that
yeah.
thought. See what that looks like.
yeah,
Yeah, I
okay.
mean, we're meeting again in 2 weeks, right? So
Yeah.
Oh, we've gone to 9 places now, so.
Can I say Farmington Valley has a diving well? You want to see someone with a diving well, Farmington Valley one?
Yeah.
I don't even know when they're working.
Been there.
Yeah.
Special Olympics event.
Is that counseling?
Just out of Simsbury.
Yeah.
All right, perfect. Appreciate your guys' feedback. We'll get to that. On to the topic 7. So we want to schedule something with people from the Meriden Borough and the Britton line. They asked us to, there's some questions ahead of time.
Right, so that he is scheduled, February
Okay,
3rd, our
okay,
next
yeah,
meeting,
I wrote that
6
down.
o'clock. And he mentioned maybe after our meeting, he intends to bring himself, a board member, maybe Steve, the assistant that we met, that there'll be a total of what he thinks 4 people. But he wants questions in advance. He knows we're meeting tonight, and he'd like to get those questions as soon as we can get it to them because they want to prepare completely and, you know. With that, I'm just gonna pass this out. I typed up some questions that I had just to get the juices flowing. And, you know, there's more, I'm sure, to add to it. Or if you don't like them, you can delete them. But I think it's fair to give them the questions in writing so that they can make sure they cover everything, because again, it's, you know, one night in type of thing, get everything done.
Yeah, we kind of, I know the one thing, the one thing I want to know is, what is the saturation point of Ys? We have a YMCA in Southington, one in Plainville, both of them do really well. So if we put one in Berlin, we are tapping into the whole market. Meriden has one, you know, so, you know, do we necessarily need one as close to ones that right around us that all do well?
Well, that's a good
So
point
if you-
because they've been,
Look at,
what are their reasons for asking? They've been saying they want to come here. But
Yeah.
I'm not saying,
So
but why?
Yeah, exactly.
Well, the Southington one is actually Southern Cheshire, the Southern combination.
Right.
And then Plainville, Burlington, and something else, I'm not sure. exactly.
Because they have facilities.
is Plainville part of
Yeah, they
Hartford?
just, they service like 3, they'll service a few
Oh, I'm
different
sorry,
areas.
Jim, I didn't tell you.
But I think because
No,
of,
sorry.
like, say, the saturation here, Berlin is probably gonna pull some people from Meriden, it's gonna pull some from New England, it's gonna pull some from Cromwell. So it's, you know, it's still a draw.
It's good. Good
Yeah,
question to ask.
If you go to the question that I wrote, 1E, what John mentioned to us is that the Y will have to do a feasibility study before they do anything. So I can actually add in, you know, i.e., what is saturation? You know, just, and I'm gonna ask, well, I'm gonna point out, so just to make sure you read through this. I'd like, you know, has that been done? I mean, maybe John has some study that was done, you know, a few years back when I know the Y was considered here in town.
I thought he mentioned something about that too. He said that he looked into Berlin.
Yeah, I don't
Came
know.
up with 30 to 35,000. I think they've been looking here.
Well, I know they've looked, but I don't know if they did the official feasibility study that their national office has to
Yeah,
do.
I'm
before
not
you
sure
do it.
of that.
I don't know, but that's, yeah. And you know what, like, I'd ask if you're really gung ho and coming into Berlin, and why don't you do your feasibility study now? You know, if they haven't done. Because then we'll even know if it's an option to consider. But anyway, that's, if you read through E, those are all those types of questions.
When you were talking to John earlier, the need to hire a professional fundraiser company. So is that something that I guess does the YMCA do that on a regular where they hire a company to go out looking for money? The one thing I heard, they said that they have access to YMCA, and said something about having access to be able to get in and ask people for funds that regular people wouldn't have. But I don't know
Because it's
if
a,
that
yeah,
is-
because it's a
that's what,
nonprofit. That's what Kathy
Kathy
Abercrombie said.
Abercrombie said.
Mhm.
Now, John made it sound like it's more local companies, but yeah, that's, but they do hire
John made it sound like in order to fund the building, it would need to be local fundraising. That's the vibe I got, and maybe that's why he hasn't, he needs the support of the town and it hasn't gone to this
Yeah.
step yet, so.
Yeah, my question in that could be, what's the time frame? What is their beginning and end point to it? Is it how many years or months
Right.
fundraising before they move forward with the shovel in the ground? You know,
Barbara, you're awfully quiet.
Yeah, no, somewhere I have that, but maybe not those words, so I
Yeah.
just wanna,
Yeah, I think we need to fine tune a list. of
but,
questions
okay,
and-
so, yeah, what a timeline from beginning, shovel in the ground.
Yeah, what's the
To
typical
final
length of a
construction, yeah.
fundraising period
And
for?
you know what, guys, when you go to Putnam, that might be a question to ask Amanda, because she was there from the beginning too.
Mhm.
Although that was 16, now is now, but, and they're part of Hartford, just so you know, they're part of the Hartford one, Putnam.
Yeah, I mean, do they wait until they hit their target before they do
Before
anything, or do they
yeah.
start
Yeah,
still fundraise? I mean,
yeah,
like,
that's,
they have the trees up in the building, and we saw, they still accept donations,
right,
funding throughout, and they probably still work on that. They don't give up, right?
yeah,
Yeah.
I don't know, good question. He did mention that older facility at that time, 20 years ago, cost 7 million. And they were short in funding, and they had to borrow $1 million from their town, from the town sitting there. And they did pay it back, but they had to take a loan in order to complete the facility, so.
Your points here for number 4, that's something you were alluding to, Jen, about working with our senior center, community center, Parks and Rec staff and stuff.
Well, yeah, and 3D, if we could find a way to reword that as in, how do you see collaboration with the Parks and Recreation Department
Yeah.
going, instead of, do you see it as a replacement? If we can just word that differently, I think that would support us a little bit more.
And again, I take these questions to Putnam just to see, how they do it, but, yeah, so I
But
think
we
that's a
should
fair
come up with,
question.
yeah, we should, as a group, come up with a list of, questions that you definitely want to ask John and get them organized. And I think Donna's got a great start, but I think we need to go through and come up with something formal that we're gonna give him ahead of time.
I do want to point out, because I was involved in the statement of needs, which by the way, I would attach to all questions, we have to give them the statement of needs so that we could understand what they can do, what they can't do from each, or how they would do it if they're not doing it now. Item 2, the Y mission versus Berlin statement of needs, which again, I want to make sure that I understand their mission and what they say, right here. For youth development, healthy living, social responsibility. The Ys are wonderful, they're great. The vision that when we did the statement of needs, and I'll speak for Parks and Rec Commission, was an integrated facility for Berlin residents, all residents. Youth development, senior programs to keep active, healthy living, agree with that, social networking, all that kind of stuff. I just want to understand, make sure I'm clear on what a difference would be town versus what. And I tried to use words, but you guys, again, if you don't want a specific word or whatever, I'll change it or whatever, or you don't want to use this, but I just feel it's really important for us to understand, the two approaches. And again, the Y does a wonderful, wonderful job. So I don't want to take anything away from it.
Looking at your question 1D, has kind of my thoughts about estimate how long it takes to raise funds.
Oh, that's where it is?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, thanks. Yep. So
On
from
top of that
start
too,
to, yeah, talk about the different phases, right?
they're a large corporation, do they have their own group of people they reach out to? Do they have to go out to bid? All that kind of stuff.
Yeah, okay, good.
So.
Oh, go
Scott wants
ahead.
to- her hand went up first.
Go ahead, Dan. No, no, no. I just want to mention that when I was down at the senior center last week, I did a little survey of my own, for the little group that I was with. And they were concerned about the outside membership. And they said, if we have what memberships for, like, I'm just using St. Paul's as an example. But if other people, other schools want to come in and they have memberships, do we defer to them? If it's strictly not a Berlin facility? And what is the Y membership to seniors? They were concerned about that because they said it's $325 per year at hospitals for special care teams and support. So they were wondering, what would it be at the Y for a membership? And they pay for their little programs, and that's only if an instructor is hired. If a person in the program does the program itself. That would be, so that was one concern. And they just felt like the membership was expensive for the year, and for seniors, it's $38 a month. So there was a concern there. Do you have that?
It's $456 a year, $38 per month.
How much?
For one senior, $456 a year
456 is the membership?
per year, yeah. It's
And
$30
They
a
do
month.
monthly memberships only at the Y, but
But just to compare,
Yeah.
what
What
you were
is the
saying,
monthly, does it give you a monthly?
It's $38
a month.
Yeah,
and
that's
one
30
senior,
cents. She pays $38 a month.
54 per month for
For
$2.
membership. Yeah.
Two seniors.
So those were all concerns that they had. And I only got to meet with one group because of the weather. So it was,
Well,
one group
there's
was-
still gonna be a cost to use the facility in Berlin,
yes, a membership cost.
a membership cost, right? And with the size of the facility we're building, we're gonna be taking outside memberships from outside of town anyways. Otherwise, we're not gonna be able to fund it.
Yeah, you're gonna have to take, we take outside memberships for the golf course.
Yeah, exactly. It's
Right.
gonna be the same
Yeah,
thing.
so why should it be different for the Y? We could take, I
Well, it's
mean, for
gonna,
the,
yeah,
our
even the towns,
community
right.
center.
Yeah, because of the size of the facility we're building, the town won't support it itself.
No, and we can't, especially the golf course either, so we just have to
Right.
keep that in mind, you know? That there is a cost for whatever you want to do.
Some of the places we looked at, like Mansfield for the seniors, was more expensive than the
Yeah,
Y.
Mansfield is very
it's run like a
expensive.
Y.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it was very expensive.
Yeah, yes, Mansfield, which was the oldest facility, whereas Newtown, the newest facility, was much more reasonable. I don't have it here with me, but it was like 300 or something for their full membership
For the seniors, yeah, for the,
for Newtown.
Yeah.
And another concern was the programming. Tina does a wonderful job juggling the programming with the space that we have there. I mean, it's not a lot of space. There's a lot of people that come and go. But their concern was that, who would handle the programming and the scheduling? And would we have somebody like Tina, who's invested in not only in her job, but in the people themselves? She knows them all personally. She does things over and above the people no one knows about, you know? Private and personal things. And they have that concern because they don't feel like they're gonna get that from the Y where you have outside people managing your facility. So that was one of their concerns. I'm still doing a study when I get down there again, like today, it was closed. But I'm gonna ask the other group that belongs there for some input, because I think it's important to have. And the thing is, when we go to those meetings, they'll input to me. But if we have a big forum and we have a lot of people, they won't speak. And I said that, I said, you have to let the committee know how you feel, and they won't, you know? They just,
If we have a public forum though, like we did at the senior center, I thought that they were pretty forthcoming. with
well,
their-
there are a few people that will be willing to do that. You know, and I would encourage them to speak up. But a lot of them, I mean, they'll tell me, but
Yeah,
they
sure.
don't want to speak up, you know? So that's why I will continue to ask questions. So I just want to,
To the point about fees, though, maybe we get a spreadsheet going, well, this is we've seen. You can see it on one sheet and say, hey. Because like Mansfield, like I said, it's all over the place. Right?
Oh, the rates were really.
Broke it down
I
for
think
little specific
700
categories.
$770 for a family of four or something, like
Yeah.
it was really high, but it's
A la
not well
carte
run.
menu too.
Not well run.
Everything you took was a separate fee.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I don't know. Okay, so we're set with the Y meeting for next meeting, right?
So if they're, go ahead.
Yeah, just what are we sending him for questions? Because I need to
Right.
prepare, I need to prepare a packet for him. I don't know if you want to go through Donna's one by one or say, okay, yes, as this one, let's reword it to this, but we have to send him some information. I have to send him a packet of information.
I mean, can we
what do you need
have
this
like through the
packet?
weekend, I get
Yeah.
an email to you? And collect them Monday?
Yeah, that's a good
Yeah,
thought.
I think I can do that.
And if they're duplicated, just use your judgment,
Right.
cross out the ones that are duplicated.
And I can send Brian the final, Brian, I don't know who Brian is. I can see Brendan's final list before I send it to John.
Yeah,
That works.
I would send it to him though, early next week, like, because he really, and God bless him, he wants to prepare, he wants to make
Yeah.
sure he has the right people.
So why don't
here.
we say, get all your questions to me by end of Monday?
even Monday morning, you got all weekend.
Yeah.
It's
Okay.
Thursday now. By noon-
All right,
by
does that work?
noon Monday.
By noon Monday?
Yeah.
Jen, I sent this to you later today, so.
Yep, okay.
No, I appreciate that. and put that together. I'm sure most of that will stay. Some changes.
You know, again, I think it's gonna be.
Yeah, and Donna, if other people submit questions that are similar to yours, I'll just reword them so they all kind of,
Just
Works.
blend it all.
yeah,
together.
blend it all together, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay,
You know, different topics like,
We're on a roll.
yeah.
that works. And everyone's okay with me forwarding him the statement of needs, correct?
With the statement of needs, yeah.
That's fine. So moving on to the person that was given the early design concept, do we want to bring in Tom or Carrie at all? Pick his brain,
Not yet, I don't think.
not yet.
I want to get a little more information.
Well, honestly, I think we gotta set a date here or talk about what we're gonna do after our February meeting. February's gonna be John, right? And then have we set our meeting dates for May and beyond?
Nope, we have to do that
March?
tonight. We have to do that
We're doing it
tonight.
tonight.
We only have, yeah, that's open discussion because I forgot to put it on the agenda. So,
So, I mean, at some point, I hope that we do it a little differently than last year when we did any public forums. If we're gonna get to the public at all, you know, reach out to them, that we would do it before school ends. Because, you know, after June, people are gone for the summer, we know that, so I would like to make sure that, I would recommend that we do some public reach out, which I know means we have a lot of things to get done between now and then. So that includes talking to our Carrie and getting thoughts about changes.
yeah, I
Things
think,
that we have.
so I rewatched the September meeting where Attorney D'Onofrio really talked about what you can and can't do. And when public outreach came up, we were talking about the Berlin Fair, as you know, in September. He really, wanted to make sure that like, you can't do that until you guys have a project. And you guys haven't decided as a committee what your project is going to be. We have the conceptual design, but you guys haven't decided if you want to make changes to that or anything, and you guys haven't come collectively to decide what's the project that you have essentially are going to want to recommend to the council. And until you do that, you really don't do public forums, because public forums is telling what the project is, and you guys don't know what the project is yet. So I knew that was going to come up tonight in public outreach. So I went back and I watched it this morning and I took notes and everything about what Attorney D'Onofrio said. And I just wanted to make sure that everyone kind of remembered that conversation and kind of knew what the next steps were. I don't think bringing Tom in until you know what changes you are looking to make on a statement of needs. I thought Jim Mahoney had a great idea of, let's ask him to phase it into three, let's break it up into 3 different phases maybe and see if financially that would work better. I also think now that you've looked at all these other facilities, you have options that you want to look at like, do we need 1,000-foot, front lobby or whatever? Maybe that can be lessened based on what you've learned from the other facilities. So I think that's your next kind of focal point, is to look at the statement of needs and see what adjustments you want to make. I'm just a liaison. I'm just throwing it out there, that just reminding you of that conversation in September of how we have to go out to the public.
I think one big thing we're missing before we do outreach too is cost.
Correct.
I mean, we have to know what the impact is to the town's budget, the taxpayers. We have none of that information yet. We need to get Kevin Delaney in here and find out how this is going to affect our bonding, if it's wise to even bond $40 million, and what effect it's going to have on the mill rate. We can't go tell the people we're going to build this huge spectacular thing. Then when they say how much it's going to cost, go, well,
And
we
that's
don't know.
just to build. We haven't even talked about operating
Yeah,
costs, which will
there's-
also
there's-
affect the mill rate,
Exactly.
right?
So just to keep this thing operating is going to be,
Yeah, this isn't gonna be $100,000 operating cost budget.
it's not going to be
Easily-
$100,000.
It's easily going to
We're going to
be,
be in the millions.
over a million, easily.
So we're, just operating costs is going to add over 3% to the budget probably. So are the townspeople have to look at that.
After fees, right?
So,
What is the net after fees that the town needs to
right, we
contribute?
need to
Well,
know
and what
both
fees
sides.
are you
But that is-
charging? You're
but-
used to seniors
that's being
coming and not
said-
paying anything. And now all of a sudden you're gonna start charging fees, so that's something to take into consideration.
I mean, I would hope we go to the public, which this is the conceptual design, this is the cost, that we feel. But these are the changes to that, because that's what part of our project or our task given by the council is what to change from that. Pluses or minuses. And then what is the impact of those pluses or minuses for us to go to the public with? And you know what? We gotta listen to the public before you finalize things to the council. That's part of our job. It's right in our task list. And so, yes, the lawyer mentioned that, but when asked for a follow-up, part of it is reaching out to the public. And I think he acknowledged that, Jen. Yes, you do have to reach out to the public in order to get their input so that you understand, what you're gonna recommend to the council. But, so it's kind of a chicken and egg thing. But I totally
We gotta
agree.
have numbers.
You've gotta have numbers, absolutely.
But you
But
can't even
we-
get numbers if you're gonna change a statement of needs.
So
No, but we can't,
have-
Jen, we
have the
cannot
statement of
change the
needs.
state.
No, I know, you
Those
can't
are not
change, but you can
changeable.
request that the commission has changed a statement of needs if you're looking to get a more accurate cost. Because what if all of
The
a sudden your
statement of-
changes to the statement of needs knock off 10,000 square feet? That's gonna be that could be a major price
Then we can
change,
change the numbers, but
right?
we're going into this, if we're going to be going into this with the plan as proposed, we can get these numbers as they are. And we may find as soon as the people find out these numbers, we can present these numbers to the council and you guys can get it out and say, hey, this is what this project that we looked at last fall is going to cost. We may hear plenty from the people real
Sure,
quick
sure.
Right, absolutely.
about what direction they want to go in.
And we present the Y option, right? You got the
That's-
conceptual
yeah.
design. If the town funds it, we would think that these changes should be incorporated, some lessons learned, blah, blah, blah. And here's the Y option.
The biggest thing is I don't want to spend all this time and all this research and all these resources and end up with nothing because we shot for such a huge monstrosity that the taxpayers go, we're not paying for that. You guys are crazy.
But
That'll accomplish nothing.
probably the next step for us to do is we have all this information, all these places we have is to take a look at the concept that was given us in the beginning, like
Yeah.
conceptual design. Let's start pulling it apart. Like, okay, we don't need this. We want to see something like this. We want to see how this works. And then maybe after we figure that out and do a lot of that work, we can do that next meeting. Then we can ask our area, okay, these are the things that we're looking at now that we changed from the conceptual design.
I'd really like to get some numbers from Kevin Delaney though.
And just remember, if you're changing the statement of needs, the commissions have to
We
change
cannot
the statement
change
of
the
needs, and it has
Yeah,
to go to
Well,
council for
it was more just
approval.
My understanding is, I'm looking at the attachment of our task, and the last thing is any changes for public oversight. So my understanding is this process that we go through all these learning exercises, and we go back to the council and recommend what to do next. And my impression is we would maybe recommend to the town council that the town council goes back to the commissions and gathers all their information and you change the statement of needs and come up with a revised project. I don't think we can do that here. Right?
Right.
I mean, we can
We can say
certainly
we don't-
discuss
We don't
the
think
things that we
statement
saw
of
based
needs
on the,
Need to be
Right.
done. Yeah. And
we
then
can
send
do
it back.
that. Mr. Day.
We're all sitting here from a financial point, from a financial position, check. Why don't we invite Delaney here and tell him what the hell this conceptual thing's gonna cost us? If he says, oh, it's $250,000, don't worry. Now we know. If he says it's $3 million, now we know. There's no need to make any adjustment until we know what the hell it's gonna cost us. So we should just get his tail down here and tell him that, find out what it's gonna cost, how long it takes to get the funds, what we gotta do. We don't know anything. It's nice that we looked at everything. It's like saying, I want a new car. And we don't even know what the hell it costs.
Yeah, don't know how much I want to spend.
Yeah, so we should find out from him.
It's a starting point.
Yeah, where are we looking at?
We can always
Before
go
we
back
make
to them with an
adjustments.
adjustment.
Yeah,
Right.
before we make any
Yeah.
adjustments, just say, hey, Kevin, can you look at this and tell us what the heck the financial impact is to the town?
Yeah.
We should do that
That's
first.
what I'm
And what do
saying.
you want to
Because
use?
I don't know what the
I
hell
wanna-
it is.
He's not a builder, right? I
No, but
mean,
we have a basic number of
We
what
get
this is gonna
37.5
cost.
million. Go down to his office and ask him, I've done it, and it's good, yes, you should know that.
And
Go,
we should know about operating budget.
yes,
But we, it shouldn't be off the hip.
That's listed on-
We should come to our meeting and we should talk to him.
I
He can ask us
totally agree,
questions and we'll
totally.
ask him
I
questions.
think we should be able to give them a couple of quick, a basic framework of what we're looking for right here.
Right.
I mean, we want to know how it's going to affect the mill rate. We want to know how it's going to affect the bonding. And I want to know how it's going to affect our bond rating. We just fought to get the bond rating down to $75 million, or the bonding down to 75 million. If we dump $40 million back on top of it, our bond rating is going to go to hell, and we're going to have zero wiggle room to run the town. I don't know if people understand the budget in this town, but we are more than double what we should be bonded now because of irresponsibility. And we should not be going in and spending another $40 million and being as irresponsible as the people who put us in this mess in the first place.
So again, I
I want to
totally,
know what this is going to cost.
fine. I totally
Yeah.
agree, bring Kevin in,
Yeah,
it's
bring him in.
important, it's important to do. But I think we have to realize Kevin is gonna say how much it's gonna cost. And so what do you want him to use for a figure? You can, we got 37.5 million plus furniture, so say 40
I think
million.
furniture is
Right?
included in that.
Yeah, I think
I
so.
think he
So
mentioned
it's
that.
like
It's
$1 million
included,
bucks or
but-
something, but
No, I
yes,
think it was like 4 million. I think Tom included that for some reason.
From
So,
the time this
maybe,
concept
Jen, you
started.
can get
till
the
time-
detailed
till
list
today,
from
the
Tom
inflation rate
Arcuri's
has changed
office.
slightly.
Yeah.
So I think $40 million is a realistic number to be looking at, especially when you look at what these other places cost. We just looked at tonight, one that was 33,000 square feet, and it's gonna cost $21 million. So we're looking at building something twice that size. I think there's $42 million. So I think $40 million is a reasonable number to say to Kevin, how much will $40 million of bonding affect the town?
Right.
Where will this put us on mill rate, on operating on a 70,000 square foot facility? What's it gonna cost a year to operate it, and how's that gonna be effective?
And then for operating, we do have operating budgets from some towns. Maybe he can look at it, make some calls and come up with, some kind of template or
Something,
whatever. So I'm just throwing this out. So Newtown, after fees, membership fees, it was $600,000 for their senior and community center. That's what they look for funding for the town of Newtown,
that's their cost overrun.
That is we
the
thought.
operating cost overrun. In other
Okay,
words,
so,
after memberships, and you have the
so
number.
they
You guys have it
basically
in your
came
back.
short 600,000. I thought, I remember
Anyway.
seeing it, yeah.
I provided,
So-
right. So,
But their facility is a little
Bigger.
over half of the size of Berlin's. It's around, it's
And-
38,000 or 40,000.
Just adding, taking the staff
They
you
have
have,
3
just
floors.
thinking of staffing, an
thank you.
aquatics director alone plus insurance, you're at 100,000. You think about all your part-time lifeguards, all your aquatics coordinator and everything. I mean, 600,000 is a dream
Net
in my
after
head if
fees.
we can operate at that
Right, so
cost.
No,
Jen,
that's their operating.
operating budget, that's right. And that includes all that, but you take a look at, it. We have it all. Everybody has a copy of it.
The operating budget is $600,000.
Net after fees, after all their
Yeah, that was
revenue
low.
taken in, it was 600,000. Yes, you have that. However, call it $1 million. If you don't believe it, call it $1 million. I don't, call it $1 million. You have something, but you need some detail behind it. The Newtown had a lot of good detail. Now, Newtown, they do a lot of local fundraising. There's some fundraising dollars, $50,000, I think, is in there for each year, so to help offset their fees, but
Newtown is a bit of a special circumstance. It draws money. Just the fact that it's Newtown draws a lot of donations. It's the money they got to build it in
yeah,
the first place.
like I said, 50 grand.
I would rather
50
pay
grand.
50 mils a year and not have that happen.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I'm talking about not the facility, the building, right? I'm talking about operations.
Right.
Operational costs, 3 pools.
Do we want to invite Kevin to the February meeting as well?
Excuse me.
I think you could give us a quick presentation.
Excuse
Go ahead.
Yeah, go ahead.
I think what we should do, I think there's two groups that we should invite. We should invite people from public building. Okay, and then, Don Lombardo, because a $37 million projection a year ago is very different today. And a guy like Lombardo or other people on public building, I think we should invite them. They can come the same night ahead of Delaney and tell us, okay, they've probably looked at this conceptual thing around public building.
They
Right.
hired, yes.
Okay,
They-
so I want to know from them, given inflation, cost, supply chain issues, what is a $37 million property that was projected a year ago going to cost us today?
Right.
And let them give us a number, and then Delaney comes behind them, and then he figures it out. That's what we
That
need
same
to do.
night, he can do it on the screen. He has it already. He has, it.
Yeah.
I'm telling you, Delaney, he has it all.
Okay, is it
Just plug a
still?
new number in.
All right, well, no problem.
Yeah.
Let's get them here. Let's get public building here next time. We're talking about future meetings on 7.
Public, and just a suggestion on public, I agree with public building. I think we need a working session with them, but also talk about like, what ideas do they have? They've been involved with this thing. Do they have any, and we've seen places, throw out our ideas that we've seen. And Tom Arcari, why not have Tom there at the same time?
I don't have a problem with
Like the
it.
37.5 million, if you look, it's based on construction starting this upcoming summer.
Right, but that was based
2022.
on a lot of things that hadn't occurred but last time.
COVID,
A lot of
Yeah.
COVID,
Right.
inflation, supply chain issues, container ships that are stuck in a dock,
Right.
okay?
Right.
So public building people, I don't know them all, but those folks know what they're doing.
You look at- I think I just saw the other day, we know the consumer price is up 7%, consumer price index, but I just saw something the other day, the building materials is up like 26%.
And by the time we build this thing, because there's gonna be a lot after our referendum, right? That's what they should be projecting.
That's what I want to know from these people
If they
before
can.
we give them a $37 million
They can.
number.
Yeah.
That's not realistic.
Right.
So I want public building people to come here and tell us, okay, guys and gals, this is what was projected, 37 million in August of 2020, I don't know. And I think, hey, we're in a recession, costs have gone down, it's gonna cost you 35, or no, it's gonna cost you 50. I don't know what that number is.
And
And
then,
I think we need to know that to feed Delaney so that we have real numbers.
and don't we also want to look at the changes that we may want in the conceptual design and understand what the impact of those financial changes are?
Well, I think. we
And I
need-
say that because whatever we've done for the last month since September has been looking at places to get ideas, because you guys said, we need to know what we're gonna change before we do anything else. Okay, now we're going back to, just give me the numbers, and then we'll look at changes maybe, in the future, right? I'm saying we should have done that right in the beginning, but we didn't. So can we accomplish both at the same meeting?
I think it's hard to do that until you know what the heck the first thing is gonna cost you. When we look at the numbers that we get, as is and say, well, we're doing pretty good, and we could have 70K square feet. Or you
I
may
know-
say,
I know you're not
"Holy
gonna say that."
mackerel, we gotta cut this thing in half.
I know that's where you guys are gonna come out. That's what you've been saying. So,
I'm not saying that.
well, you know, to be fair though, based on the comments and everything, I think some are, so that's fine. But I'm saying I would like to go in with changes. I think there's some improvements that we can make, reduce the size.
But we can't make all those changes and reductions by
We don't even
by
know
our
where to
next
start.
meeting.
No, but you,
No,
I would hope that we have a running list of them, and why not start creating that running list?
I don't have a problem if you want to change it.
No,
If you
that
want
was
to
my
change.
point, and I think the only way that that happens is we have to go to the town council to recommend that the changes come back to us from the respective committees. After seeing all these other places taking notes,
Mhm.
I'm
because
just,
I'm not sure we're supposed
I'm
to be
very
doing
concerned
that.
with the
If
fact
this-
that we're looking at places that are 30,000 plus square feet smaller than we're looking to build. And what, we just had two tonight. One was an addition, a 9,000 square foot addition that barely squeezed through. And the other one was a 33,000 square foot community center that barely squeezed through the referendums. We're looking at doing twice that in a town the same size. What are we gonna tell people? I mean,
We're
if
gonna
they
tell them
vote
the
it down,
truth.
we're gonna end up
We
with
gotta tell them
nothing.
the truth and let them make up their minds, but
Let's
yes.
not go for nothing.
With our recommendations though, and again, I appreciate it goes to the town council, but, you know, but we have to, before we recommend changes,
Mhm.
and I don't say change the statement of needs, because I don't think that is our job. But
No.
there are duplicates within those individual statement of needs that you have to realize, we could reduce rooms because the
It's
senior
duplicate,
needs
yeah.
those same rooms and the community center needs those same rooms. You don't need two separate sets of rooms. You need one. You know, that type of thing.
No, I think Mike, like you said, Mike had a good point. We can start doing that. We take out those conceptual plans, but we need a starting point. and we did.
Yes.
Well, the heck, what I want to know is what 37 million projected, you know, a year ago is going to cost us today. That's what I want to know, or a year from now. And I don't know if it's 45, 47. It's not less, I don't think. But I'd like to know that.
Is there?
Yeah.
We have these
Did you
resources,
hire a
why don't
cost
we use them?
estimator like you
We got
guys
the
are?
whole commission, public building, they know what they're doing.
Brenda's in the industry, right?
Bring
So
them in.
I
don't
don't
know.
get, whatever Brendan
tell
says,
us
he's
how
in
much
the
it
industry.
Yeah.
I know Barbara has some thoughts, Barbara.
Go ahead, Mark.
I just think about the statement of need. I know we went over that very carefully with the senior center, I'm sure Dr. Beck did also. I want to think that we're building for the future. And if we cut back, is that going to be adequate for us as the town grows? And as we need other facilities? We don't want to have to add on in 5 years or do what we did at the library and try to put a elevator that's not even in a good place. But I think that we have to keep that in mind. We're doing this true. But also, some of the facilities that they looked at, their operating costs, they were not operating out of that facility. Their pool was in the high school or in another area of town. So we have to take those things into consideration too. We're trying to do a very comprehensive, something that the whole town is going to use and enjoy. And I think we have to look at that and think 20 years down the road, 30 years down the road. We can't skip on this. We have to do what's right for the town for the next 30 years.
I would agree to a point.
Hmm?
I would agree to a point, but is it worth putting the town in serious debt when it's already in a bad spot?
I agree with you 100%.
So-
That's why we have to get funding and we have to get, maybe, and that's our next project here. We'll talk about that soon, about who we're going to get. Opportunities and consultants.
All right, let's stay on point here so we can get through this. We're discussing the next meeting, and who's going to be.
So February 3rd is our next meeting
Where
at
we
6
got-
o'clock. We know we're having John.
having-
Are we inviting PBC and Kevin, or are we moving that to the next meeting? We also have no meeting scheduled after February.
I think you have a.
And you have these dates that for a no, if we're shooting for a November referendum. Is that right, Jen?
Yes, in your agenda packet, I think it's the last page, I asked Kevin for those, to update those dates of, originally they were for the April referendum. I said if they want to hit the November referendum, what are the dates? And as you can see, May is coming up fast.
It's on the last page, I know I had it.
So
I don't see any reason why we shouldn't get public building and Delaney here next meeting. Why are we gonna wait? Let's just bring them in. If they're available, bring them
Now we
in.
gotta push forward, get them in here.
Get them in here. Let's see what that there's gonna say.
and if the Public Building Commission, could we give them the option, if they would want to invite Tom Arcuri, since they're the ones that hired him? And it's Tom Arcuri's cost company, it's a private company, I'm not sure who they used to come up with the 37.5 million. But they may, and I'll leave it up to the Public Building Commission, because they hired him, but at least let them bring him if they want to. You okay with that? I'd be okay.
I'm
with
fine.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm fine with that.
And we should give them a charge
Exactly,
before they come here. Tell them what we're looking for.
yes.
Yeah. That's good.
You know, we should tell them, this is what we're looking for. We wanna know, like,
What is that conceptual design cost estimate now? Is that right?
yeah, where do we start from? Is that a realistic number
Yep.
still?
Right, we had 37.5 million. What is it now?
Yeah, yeah, how does it, supply
Assuming a
chain
November,
cost overruns, inflation, you know, what are you seeing?
Yeah.
You say, oh, no,
It's
it's
above,
flat,
it's
it's all
above
over.
normal. It's not something.
Or maybe they
anticipated in his
can't
budget already.
nail it, but
and
we
I'm
have to
sure
start
he had
somewhere, 'cause we
escalation
don't
costs
know.
at
and
that number, but
if we said, assuming construction starts, early summer 2023 or something, and I always say, if you do a November referendum, it's gonna be the winter, and then, so it's early summer 2023, 1 year later.
I'd like to know, because I really don't know.
So those,
Yeah, so,
okay.
you know, there's a lot of, okay, you know, there's so many things globally, and I don't even know if they can nail this, they can just give us a projection, there's things happening.
Yeah, they're
Oh,
gonna
for
give us a little guidance.
A little guidance, but they may say, oh, 37 million is fine, you're good. Or they may say, oh, yeah, now listen, folks,
Yeah,
it's a little different, and I don't know what that is, so, but I'd like to know. And we sort of have a responsibility to know, to ask the question, so we can share it with other people,
Absolutely.
you know? And we're gonna have to tell the
And
town council, you know, the
Could
37.
we ask Delaney to be here so that as they're coming up with are they coming?
We should be right in public building.
yeah, he'll be here.
We should be listening to public building, and then we should tell him what we want to know.
Right, and
Yeah.
we'd like the bonding schedule, because I know in 2026, our bonds go down to like 40 million. So, but yes, we'd like the building schedule, because realistically, that's probably going to be when we're building this thing.
Yeah, so PVC, Mr. Delaney.
What order am I putting them on the agenda?
Oh, public building's gotta go.
yeah, the board.
But what about the why? Where, are you putting the why first? Are you putting John first?
Yeah.
Are you-
No, John first. John,
first,
right,
then
John
Mike,
first,
get him
and then
out,
they
yeah,
leave,
get him
and
out,
then
and then-
they would come in. Yeah.
All right, Brendan, I'm gonna
think
try to
John
compare
first.
emails and send them,
Yeah.
just to get a second eye on them before I send it to, I'll send it to Micah Hearn, because he's the liaison for public building. And I'll send it to Kevin.
We'll start there if anybody has any thoughts about it.
I think public building and Kevin Delaney will be quick.
Yeah, I mean, public,
There's
yeah.
just basic information.
Numbers.
I know, he has a whole spreadsheet.
Yeah, I know.
And depending on what the numbers you want plugged in, he can give you like, what if
Let's get him in
this?
here so everybody can see it,
Yeah.
get it on the record. Okay, so let's move on to number 8. You know, interesting that, you know, we just had a preliminary talk with Hawaii. You know, just how they operate, they would hire somebody, right, to do their funding, do all that research. So, you know, if we're gonna do this ourselves, we'll probably have to do the same thing. Right? We've got a little bit of grant money left, and that's the way we would probably do it, right? Just get someone in here.
That's
to do
actually,
that.
sorry, just going back to PBC, we should ask them what we have left for grant money. That might be
Yep.
good for you guys to know as the committee. Sorry, Brendan,
No, that's okay,
just thought of it.
because you gotta leave some in there too for changes for.
Yep.
It gets that far to, right?
Yeah, if you're gonna ask Tom to break it up in any way.
Yeah, I'm sure he's gonna. Whip out the checkbook. Or we'll have to whip out the checkbook.
Good job.
Yeah, that's okay. That's the way things happen. You know, and they had lots of, they already know that their consultants are which businesses and which groups and which people are they gonna go to, and I thought that was something I never even knew existed.
Right.
There's a lot of metrics out there that people use that they can find that. You know, because funding will be an issue, right?
Yep.
You know, and we don't wanna, like Tim said, go through all this exercise and not have something to put forward for people to vote on. So, I don't know, anybody have any thoughts on the funding item here before us?
I'd like to see us pursue, and it's probably the council that would have to, but recommend now that the council hire someone, hopefully be able to use the grant
Mhm.
funds to do so. Hire a company, because whether it's a Y or whether, you know, a Y building or a town building, both are gonna
Well, that's one of my things for
use
Kevin. Can
professionals,
we
right?
get an account set up in the budget for project, you know, where people can donate to?
But we need,
Yeah,
we need to
donations.
go through the referendum
Right.
before we do that.
Well, I don't know.
I would check on that first with,
Yeah.
maybe Jeff and Alfredo. We're basically setting up something to take donations on something that doesn't exist. We don't even have a plan.
That's why I'm asking. I don't
Yeah,
know what the
I would
process
start
is.
with Jeff Alfredo and see if we can even do that.
I mean, because every one of our departments, but you know, it's an existing department, fire,
Yeah.
fire truck fund, or the police car fund, park and recs fund. People
Right.
donate to the library.
We have a library.
Yeah, I know, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
It's a good point. We're
Something
already
like, again,
existing.
very smaller things, but through Parks and Rec and through the town, they've set up accounts to take future donations to fund something in the future, like a bench that somebody wants.
Mhm.
But they set up the account already, you know,
Yeah,
it's
we have
not
a
like
sage
you
improvement
have
account.
it, so.
So,
But-
good question. We have to have a
But
project before we do that or not.
I think we should now recommend that the council hire someone to focus on fundraising for a facility. Again, whether it's a Y or other or town, you need to do it. So we might as well start now.
Are you saying, Donna, to create a list of potential people to hire? Or are you saying to go out and find someone, hire them now?
Start looking and identifying areas to go get funding.
But we don't, see, the problem is, we don't even know what we're gonna recommend to council yet. We have no idea what we're
We don't
recommending.
even know if we're building this.
Yeah, we don't know. So I think we're sort of, and I appreciate your enthusiasm, but I think we're sort of like putting the, the cart before the horse, because XYZ company in Shelton is a consultant that raises funds. So we call and say, what do we tell them? Oh, you want $100 grand? Okay, go ahead. Here's $100 grand. Start. We don't even know what to tell them.
So
I don't know what to tell them yet.
tell who, the
The
fundraiser?
fundraiser, the
No,
consultant.
no. So again, there are companies, and I don't know this for a fact, but St. Paul's, okay? There are fundraising companies, we've used them at St. Paul's, we've raised
Absolutely.
lots of monies, but what they do is they tell you the ability of your local area to provide funding resources. They'll be able to tell you, and Kathy Abercrombie even mentioned this at our last meeting. You know, Eversource has a foundation. They should be able to tell you if it's the right, like how much, a range of what they might and have contributed in the past for these types of things. Whether it be a Y or whether it be town funded. I mean, and again, maybe there's nothing out there. But wouldn't it be nice when we go to the public to say there are areas of funding that are, as of now, if we don't build this thing for a long time, it's gonna go away or whatever, but right now that we feel we could get. We can't promise the number because there is no set plan or anything like that. But with high, there's a funding resource, sets of resources. This is how much you can count on. You're gonna have to do, the Y is gonna have to do it as well. The Y being the local community is gonna have to do the same thing. That's in, John, explained that to us, and he'll explain more, I guess, February 3rd, but to me, Barbara, you mentioned this at the beginning of the meeting, we should be looking at getting someone that's 100% devoted to funding. Jim Mahoney's a part-time guy, and we have lots of things that he's looking for. But we need something devoted if we're serious about, if the town is serious about doing something. Whether it's a Y or town or smaller or whatever. I just think
Okay,
that,
but it was very clear to me when we talked to Mr. Mahoney, Mr. Lopes, and the county.
Yeah.
There's nothing available till you pass a referendum. You can't even apply for grants. Now,
correct,
is there somebody that knows how much we might pull from private individuals and corporations? Maybe. I don't know who they are.
I don't either.
I don't
I
know.
don't have the
But,
names.
but with respect to the government and grants, and I can appreciate you mentioning that, and a lot of your folks, the senior folks say, well, how much we get for grants, how much we get for grants? We keep saying that. They might support it if they knew how much we get for grants, but it was very clear between Mr. Rhodes, Mrs. Ann Cronin, and Jim Mahoney. You're not gonna get, you may get something, but you won't get it till
It'll
you
be
pass
small.
referendum.
Oh, absolutely, and
You gotta
Cheryl,
pass referendum for every project,
absolutely,
then you go out.
that's right.
And you might get a couple mil, I didn't
Because
see,
they're talking hundreds of thousands,
yeah,
not millions.
it's not like huge, so,
There are
there
towns
some
in the
monies?
recent bonding that got a couple $1 million each, but
I
yes,
know, but
somewhere
when
in
you're
there.
talking 37 million or 42 million, 2 million.
And they're getting the bonding because it's their state rep's project, so to speak.
Right, yeah.
For the bond,
And they even
right, but
said,
there's grant-
Hope said it, I read the minutes, he said,
Absolutely,
you're
is
not
that
gonna
a-
get 30 million. You may get 1 or 2 million, that Hope
Right.
said it, it's in the minutes.
Right,
So
right,
like, it's not huge numbers,
right.
And okay, Newtown, we know what happened there, and we know why GE coughed up.
Well, maybe that's a
Yeah, we
question for-
can't-
That's,
do
we're not gonna be at that level.
Right,
Eversource may say, okay, or Comcast may say, well, we each give you $500,000.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
We're talking about a very small portion of a very large project.
So I
Maybe
just,
that's a question for Ken. What is the process for putting on an RFP for a consultant or?
And then it comes back to the same thing. Can we hire a consultant for a project we don't have yet?
Yeah.
That doesn't make any sense to me. I mean, if I'm a taxpayer and I vote on a referendum and find out that you guys already hired a consultant for however many hundreds of thousands of dollars, and we're not even gonna build it, we look like idiots.
right, just like we look like idiots if we're using the state grant to fund the conceptual design and we're not gonna move forward to it, I agree with you. That's why I'm saying, but the state grant, I don't know that we can use the funds for something like this, but that's a question that I would have.
How would we know that?
We have to ask the Public Building Commission
PVC.
is supposed to be tracking and understanding and
well, there's all
saying.
rules in the grant, the 750 we got, it tells us what to do with it.
But the
PVC
Public
was
Building
just
Commission, they-
No, that's the thing. We gotta,
It's
we
right
gotta
in
know
there.
that we can.
Grant
you gotta
says what
ask,
to use.
you gotta ask.
And you need a fundraiser. I mean, you're saying we can't get a grant because we don't have the project in place. But if you have a fundraiser and they're looking to get you funds to do this project, that's why I think we should look into hiring someone. Because they know where the money is. We don't know that. They know who to approach.
You know what, I don't have a problem getting a list of people that fundraise. Okay, that's not, ask Delaney, I want 3 people that do this kind of stuff, and let's bring them in here.
Yeah, and that's,
Let's bring them in here,
Sure.
let's interview them.
You just
They're
can't
gonna
just go
come
hire
here.
somebody.
No, they're gonna come here because they want a contract.
Yeah.
And we'll say, listen, we're thinking about a $37 million project in central Connecticut, Berlin. These are the businesses we got here. And we're not talking about grants from the government yet. We're talking about
Private donation.
donation. What do you think we're gonna bring in? Just bring them in here. Just get a list of 3 people or
go for
3
it.
companies.
Yeah.
Ask Delaney. And then write them down. Let's interview them.
Yeah.
Because you know what? that'll clear the air. They may say, well, I think I can get 200 grand, or I'll get 7 million. I don't know what the heck the number is.
I don't know where.
So why don't we just find out, have Delaney find out who these people are that do this fundraising, and let's bring them in here and interview them.
It's all learned. Why not?
How we'll learn.
I'm all
That's
for
right.
that. I don't know what the number is. I'd like to know.
Yeah, we just can't just go out and hire somebody though. We
No.
gotta,
No, of course you're gonna interview.
You'd have- you'd have
But
to-
if I
You would
had
have to
I would
put out
hope
an,
that something
you would
comes
have
of
to
it.
put out an
If there's
RFP,
something-
right? I mean, council
Yeah.
members support me on
Yeah.
this, you have to put out an
If
RFP.
you do it, it's viable, why
Let me tell you, if
not?
I ran a fundraising company, I'd come here in 2 seconds and pitch you guys and say, listen, I think you can get this.
Because you want the job.
Let's want the job. Let's bring them in. What the heck? This is what these people do. That's what they do for every contract for them, for fundraising. They tell the people,
They
based
bid
on
on
this,
that.
this is what I think I can give you.
Just like the wine, right? It's local fundraising, guys. We're gonna have to raise the money somehow, even if we want the wine in here, and so that's good. Even with the wine, gotta do local.
And then when we get this building all built, we can have a yearly golf tournament to raise funds to maintain. I think you're right. I think we should get people in there and just have them see.
Yep,
We should see,
I've added that to my list of questions for Kevin.
yes, what they can do for us.
Yeah, bring them down. Let's interview them.
And again,
Absolutely.
I include in that companies that know state and federal funding. I include, it's just,
Oh,
it's not
sure, to
private.
go both ways, yeah.
Yeah.
No, absolutely. Yeah, that's a good idea.
Okay, some good thoughts.
Mhm, very good.
So we'll move on to public outreach. I know that within the Public Building Commission hiring an architect for the conceptual design, that was covered in under their purview. I mean, it's not really written in our tasks. Doesn't mean we can't talk about it. How we advise or help. I told people, I don't know, I didn't tell Margaret, but I did write a letter in October introducing what we were doing. And I reached out to the newspapers and nobody printed.
I wrote a letter today, as a matter of fact, I saw just a press release, because I think that we should do that from time to time, because there was a letter in the paper, somebody asked, what are they doing with this project? We don't hear anything. And I was thinking if we did that I don't know how soon the paper, or how cooperative the paper would be, but I mean, I'd be willing to do that every.
I still have mine and I made some adjustments because Mike had some points and I was gonna
Mhm.
change some dates and put it back out there.
Well, that's why I said in this one, you can change or add to whatever you had on there, and then we can see what we can do about every couple of months getting these out.
Take mine, I take yours. Just
Yeah,
put an
just-
informational letter out there, not
Right.
really a press release, just saying this is what we're doing, let people know.
Yep,
I don't know, any thoughts?
Well, I'm okay with it, but I believe it should be approved by this commission.
No, yeah, absolutely.
oh, yeah,
Everybody
that's
gets
why,
this-
that's
gets
why.
It's gotta be
on it.
approved by the commission before
it
it
has
goes
to
on.
be somewhat general right
Yeah.
And you guys are
That's
on
what I was trying to do.
council, so I'm gonna take your word that you're allowed to do this and that was my
For the,
only
yeah, because I remember one of the things they were worried about was
letters
that
to
public
the
outreach
editor, yeah.
and, putting information out there and stuff. So I think maybe one of the things we can do is maybe we write a letter, we all approve it, and we give it to the council and say, here's what we want to put out there.
Sure.
Absolutely.
Add
Yeah,
to our
look up
agenda
the
and say,
site.
like, yes. it's approved.
Yeah, because
And-
that way it's put on the agenda. And I just
And to move it
instead of
along,
council communications, we talk about it or committee,
Yeah,
get it on there, just so people know. Get
You
it.
just add, I just did
Sure.
some thoughts of mine, but add them to yours, and I just labeled it press release, because I didn't know what else to call it.
so do you
That's almost
wanna,
how you.
this
gotta
looks
do it.
really official, right off
It
the.
is really official.
do you wanna write something up? We can vote on it on February 3rd.
Sure. I'll do that.
And then we add the dates for future meetings.
When is your next town council meeting?
First.
Yeah, same.
So I'm gonna make a motion that we allow Brendan to revise his initial press release
Information,
letter to the editor, whatever you want to call it,
Uh-huh.
and he take that to the council, with Mike to get approved on February 1st. I only say that because, I mean, I think Brendan, you sent your letter.
I'll second that.
And I saw the email, it was a great letter. I'm okay with it. Very quickly, reading Barbara's, I'm okay with these points, you can incorporate, you know, I trust you and everything. I just
together.
think we
And
gotta
you can
get
just share
something
with,
out.
I mean, you can share
Oh,
with
yeah.
you.
And if you haven't, if David hasn't had an opportunity, maybe you can look at it now. So,
He can send the email out. You guys just can't vote via email.
Correct.
So you'd
Right.
have to vote today that you're leaving it in Brenda's safe hands.
Well,
So I made that
seconded it so we
motion.
can vote.
if someone wants to second it and then we.
Yeah, I did.
Okay,
Okay,
so
now discussion.
discussion,
So I'm okay with it all, providing that everyone on this committee has reviewed it and says, hey, it's pretty general enough. Because it can't be too specific, like Tim just said. It's gotta
I
be-
think
have nothing.
Brendan knows what it's gotta be.
Okay.
I trust his judgment on that.
Keep it clean.
I mean,
Yes.
the original letter, I think, had that intent. That was-
Yeah.
was Pretty general.
Yeah, the original letter was good, so.
Yeah, because we can't start sending emails about giving feedback and
right.
everything, because that's not allowed.
I'm okay.
I think if you add the dates of when the meetings are. Sure. That if people want to get those details, they can come to the meeting.
And they can zoom in.
Exactly.
yeah, they're invited to our meetings. You know, it's a public meeting, you're all invited, join us. We need your thought, you know, we really do, we need their thoughts.
Well, Brendan has to get.
Oh, no, that's right, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah,
You
that's-
and Mike.
Yeah, the motion is
council
to take it to council.
So they do it on February 1st, and then you get it in the papers, and I'm a citizen who does not release things, you know, that everybody writes. I mean, they absolutely should be following this.
They did a very nice commentary or.
Jack Fasino, he did a good job, yeah,
They did a wonderful job. We should have something.
yeah, they published that one.
Okay, so there was a motion on the floor and there was a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. The motion passes. We'll get that done.
Almost done, yours. I think we're on, I lost my agenda.
Number 10, timeline strategy, does that include future meeting dates?
Could, yes. It was more so recognizing that I included Kevin's new dates. I don't know what that was for. I think strategy of committee, we've kind of talked a lot about tonight, so.
These are the council public hearing dates, we need our own dates. Or these are for us, these dates.
Those, no, those are just the dates that if you want to go for the November referendum, those are your deadlines.
The dates we have to.
The dates for the meeting, I went through till August. I did the first Thursday of every month.
Okay.
March 3rd, April 7th, May 5th, June 2nd, July 7th, August 4th. We want to keep going, or we want to just do 6 months at a time. That's what we did this time.
That
Yeah.
should be plenty.
Yeah, especially if you're going for the November referendum.
But how do we meet these dates with just monthly meetings? You can't. If we're going for a November referendum, I mean, I don't understand why it has to all be done, but he's saying,
You know what I would say, after our February, that's gonna be pretty fast. Right? If we want another one between February and March, we just do it.
right, so, but we should set it up so you don't, so you can, you know, do things and have 30 days notice, or we're not.
You can
tied to
always
just
add a
the
special
agenda.
meeting. You just won't be able to adjust the agenda. As long as I always put open discussion on the agenda, you guys are gonna be.
But if
covered.
we have to meet May 17th, you know, for them to set a public hearing and authorize the bonding of preparation of bond documents, you know, if we recommend that way, May 17th. We have February 3rd, March, and April. And then a May meeting. We only have 4 more meetings.
Well, then why don't we pick one between,
I'm okay with meeting every week.
I know.
Well, I'm not.
I
Oh, I know.
This budget
I'm just-
season,
You won't
I'm a
have a
little
liaison
busy right
every
now.
week.
You know what, I totally get that, but that's what I'm telling you, that's what I'm saying. You know, that's what we have to do. Again, I just saw these dates tonight.
So if we have.
Well, those were part of the agenda packet that went out, a week and a half
Yes,
ago.
but I didn't look at it
Yeah.
until tonight, so.
So after we meet in February 3rd, right, what's the process? Let's say we want to meet
You
in
can-
2 weeks.
decide to meet February 3rd in 2 weeks. It'll just be a special meeting. The only stipulation is nothing can be added to the agenda once it is posted. But I can always add open discussion at the end of the agenda. So as we're meeting, if we want to discuss something, we push it to the end.
So why don't we just leave it the way it is now? On February 3rd, we'll get to the end of that meeting.
We
say,
could meet in a week again if we
Holy
don't do
mackerel,
it.
we're in trouble. We gotta meet in 7 days. Hurry up.
Yeah.
Or, we're okay, we'll go March. You know what I mean?
The only thing that I say, because I know everybody's, the budget season is here for those involved in that and everything. If May 17th is our deadline, and we have so much work to get done, right? Including cost estimates, right? Changes that we may want and cost estimates of those. How can we get it done by May 17th? We can't.
We may end up meeting every week after
But we won't be
February 3rd.
able to unless we set dates now
No, we
because.
can have special
No.
meetings every week.
No, but these guys, okay, Tim already said, I don't want to meet every week, you can budget, I get that. So let's,
Well, so
can
what's
we
the
agree?
difference if we
I
set
can't
dates
commit to
today?
it.
Can we,
We can't commit yet. People can't commit yet. But if on February 3rd, we say, listen, we're in trouble. We gotta meet this.
we're in
we gotta
trouble
meet this."
now.
Okay, well, we'll know a little better how much trouble we're in after we leave the public building and, those people. Well, okay, do you want to have a meeting between now and February 3rd? What are we gonna talk about?
Well, Jen, if we set up, you're saying that if we decide to meet again after the 3rd, say on the 10th to the 17th, that would be a special meeting. But if we decide on the 3rd that we want to meet twice a month and add a meeting to the initial 2 those won't be special.
As long as
meetings, right?
there's 30 days notice,
So
it's
as long
not a
as it's
special
30 days,
meeting.
then we could-
And like I said,
Could we do
there's
something
really
like that?
no problem having a special meeting. The only thing is you can't add anything to the agenda. But as long as you have an open discussion on the agenda, you can always push things to that.
So we got our tail covered if we do it that way.
You also have to face the fact that there may be a chance that public building or Kevin is not available on February 3rd. I mean, I'm gonna reach out tomorrow to give them as much notice as possible. That's my first thing I'm gonna do, but there's always the chance that I email you guys tomorrow and say, hey, by the way, PBC can't come February 3rd. What do you wanna do?
Oh, maybe we gotta change it, make a special meeting on the 4th.
Right?
You know what I mean?
At least we
You know what I
know.
mean?
At least we can do that. I mean,
Right, we'll just say, okay, when are you guys available?
do we have budget dates, budget meeting dates set? I'm sure there are.
The big one is
Yeah.
Wednesday, the day before,
But
March meeting, March 2nd.
I go to a lot of meetings in between because I'm on
Board of
the
Finance.
capital committee. And I just, in general, go to all the budget meetings for every department.
Yeah, there's a lot.
So do you know those dates? So maybe you can
You know
provide them
what,
to
I
Jen.
pretty much check the calendar daily, some I Zoom to, some I go to.
So all I'm saying is maybe you can provide those to Jen.
Last week I
So
went to
that-
a meeting every single day.
Okay, so if you could provide dates that you're not available, my sense is, guys, we're gonna have to meet more frequently. Because it's been articulated somewhat what we want to accomplish and need to accomplish, and, I just don't know how we all get there.
Oh, let me ask you something. Jen's gonna call public building. Let her do that and find out whether the 3rd even works. We may end up meeting in a week and a half because no one's available. And we gotta get them in here first before we do anything. Setting.
And you're gonna give them the option to invite Tom Arcuri.
It's in my notes.
Oh, sure.
It's in my notes.
We're covered because we can have a special meeting. We could call a special meeting.
You could call a special meeting right now to meet.
How
To
soon
meet
we have a
Monday.
special
Anybody
meeting?
Monday.
could. It's like
Monday.
You need
our
at least
January
24 hours
6th
to
meeting got delayed till now. That's 14 days later, guys.
So we could have a special meeting in 5 days.
We could have 2 feet of snow on February 3rd. You all know.
I don't know.
Right.
Well,
And we
my
could have
thing
had
is-
our meeting January 6th, but it was pushed out 2 weeks because of
Why not,
budget.
right?
That's what we're gonna encounter, okay?
The fact of the matter is, we can have as many meetings as we can, even if we don't set them tonight. We can have meetings every 5 days.
I think everyone's
Special-
open to the fact though that we're gonna probably need more meetings.
Right.
Yeah.
No problem.
Okay, so May 17th though is our deadline. Actually, it's the meeting before May 17th to have everything done. Is that right, Jen?
Yeah, you can ask Kevin to confirm what that sentence
Oh,
exactly
yeah,
we
means.
figure it
we'll
out.
ask him when he's
I don't
here.
really understand, like, I look at that schedule.
Figure it out.
I'm not a finance guy, that doesn't, that
Yeah.
means nothing to me, that schedule. So
Okay.
I would need Kevin to explain that more in detail. I think that's a good question to ask him.
You should have been here tonight to explain, but, okay.
I'm just wondering, should we have the public building and Mr. Delaney on February 3rd and then have a hearing after that? Because these guys, we're gonna have a lot of questions for them. Delaney and public building.
And you have John from the Y first.
But you know
That's
what,
probably
We have
good.
John.
you know what, Don, you know what,
Is that too much?
you know what Donna said, Barbara, is let public building, if public building wants our Carrie here,
Let
then
him
he should
bring
be here.
Yeah,
Let them-
Even if you're gonna have a
So
busy
let
day,
them
because,
choose whether he's gonna be here or not.
yeah, let
Yeah.
public building,
Let them decide.
let them decide.
Oh, okay.
If they want them, I want
yeah, okay.
Yeah, I like the idea of leaving it up to them.
them.
Yeah,
Yeah,
because
let them.
we don't wanna jam too much. We wanna be able to have a good open discussion.
Right.
Yeah.
And it may be that Tom Arcari comes back and with public building, because they hired him, I mean, they're the ones that have to change anything and approve the changes. That if we can't get to changes that we'd like to incorporate or ideas that we've seen, hey, Tom, we're thinking, you know, I like this idea, I like, if we can't do that February 3rd, then the next meeting, whenever that might be, maybe middle of February. I just,
Yeah.
not to beat a dead horse, but come on, yeah. All right,
So it's gonna be Delaney and public building on the 3rd, right?
And John from the Y,
And
he will
John.
be first.
John is first,
Yep,
then
John
they
first.
leave.
I mean, ideally, I'm looking at the agenda, the three
They
speakers
leave,
is really,
and then
That's it, Jack.
yeah, and then I'll throw open discussion at the end.
Right, because it would just be basically.
We do need to vote on dates.
Well, I think you outlined the first Thursday each month until.
Yeah, I need a motion to approve the scheduling of the next meeting dates, the first Thursday of every month, March until August, something to that effect.
I'll make that motion.
Second.
Second, okay, good. All in favor of schedule as proposed?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, good. Okay, so that's for that. Anything else for open discussion? I think we covered most of it, right?
I just want to thank the committee and the time that you have all put into visiting the places and doing the reports and everything. I just think that you've done so much for the town of Berlin. That's why I really want to see this go forward, and I think the committee has been wonderful, and I just have to say that.
That was recorded, right?
It was recorded. Yeah, it was recorded.
I brought that up.
Louder.
I brought that up in my commission meeting too, and I know it was recorded.
And by the way, Barbara, your voice for the scene is really helpful too. Doing that little survey you did, like you said, there are people that don't want to stay up in big meetings and say things. So you giving them a voice here is very important. So thank you.
And they want to have a voice. They just don't want to speak it.
Right, sure. Perfect.
Some of them do. Some of them don't.
Could I ask that if each of us as committee members, if we could, before the next meeting, just put together the likes and dislikes that you have from each of the visits or the notes that other people have given you? You know, again, what are ideas to change that conceptual design? So that we have it and we can,
So those are
Ahead.
the point you brought up, there's overlap between the statements. You start looking at the building, you've got duplicates, triplicates.
yeah,
To weed out some of that stuff.
and, you know, some of the things we like at other centers are ideas that, you know, like cost savings. I think we should get Kevin started on cost savings. Whether you put the Y in or otherwise, get savings for the competitive pool, you gotta get that from the Board of Ed, you know, for the swim teams.
You know, the reality too is it's a very big piece of land. And if we can't get everything in one shot, we can always go back to the one.
Phase in approach,
Yeah,
right, as
I
an
mean,
option, sure, as
realistically,
long as you build it right, yeah.
if we go for broke and the town votes it down, we're all gonna be sitting there going, what happened? And we're gonna have.
Yeah, we want to get something that's gonna pass referendum,
We need to get a
still
pool.
allow for the future.
That's right.
I
The
get it.
town needs a pool. You know, we need better senior facilities, and a community center would be nice to have. If we end up with nothing because we went for everything.
And then one of those things on our task list is about existing facilities. So, you know, when Kevin puts the cost of the new pool, the community center, what are the costs of the two pools we have now? Do those go away?
Which
And
we
can
actually worked on.
absorb that.
What happens to the senior center? Does it go back to housing?
Exactly,
authority?
those are things
Right.
that are part of the
Right.
puzzle.
Right, and
So
so
libraries take it
we
back.
could, Kevin, we could ask Kevin maybe to have that kind of stuff for that February 3rd meeting. Why not, Jen? So we could ask Kevin to have that kind of stuff.
Cost
We
savings?
have the cost of the two outdoor pools.
Mhm.
And, again, a thought,
I know
cost
I've seen
savings.
some
Do you
along the
need,
line.
do you need an indoor and two outdoor pools?
They've been on the
Maybe
chopping
you
block.
could eliminate one outdoor pool, because now you're putting in a new pool, although it's indoor. But there may be another way around that, it's to look at things, because the cost of the running pools that are run for 6 weeks out of the year is expensive.
And the improvements are on the capital improvement list. And
Yeah,
go down that road.
I mean, then there's also the balance.
East Berlin's very
Offer
expensive.
more services, more things around the pool that's indoors.
Mhm.
Yeah, year-round swim lessons.
But
that'd be
cost
awesome.
savings, definitely, we should have that list, we should have that template and go get it, let's put it together, and again, we worked on the pool, so we know the cost of the pools, and Kevin has that along with Jen, so.
Okay. Enough for tonight?
Yeah.
Okay. Motion to adjourn?
Who motioned?
Second.
Who motioned?
All in favor?
I liked it. All in
Thank
favor, aye. Thanks, Tom.
Good job.
Motion for
Yes,
that,
you got it.
everybody.
You good plan tonight?